Hey there, welcome back to Mr. Charles Stories, where real life and emotion meet powerful storytelling. This channel is all about you, your truth, your struggles, your healing, and your strength. If you've ever been left in the dark, loved someone who walked away, or stood alone with nothing but your dignity, then this story is for you. Because today, we're telling the story of a woman who was rejected in the cruelest way, only to have fate bring that man back into her life, through the eyes of the daughter he never knew existed. Her name is Chloe, and when she walked into that ballroom with love in her heart, she believed he would protect her. But what happened next left a scar deeper than betrayal. Years later, that same man, richer, colder, and lonelier, walked into her bakery and saw a little girl. One glance, and he knew. The truth was alive, and it had his face. Let me ask you something. Have you ever loved someone who turned their back on you when it mattered most? Have you ever felt like the world judged you not for who you are, but for who you weren't allowed to be? What would you do if someone who humiliated you in public came back into your life because they saw your child, and that child looked exactly like them? Let me know in the comments, because this isn't just a story, it's someone's truth. Chloe had never felt so small. The room looked like it belonged in a movie. Glittering chandeliers, people in tailored gowns, men with glasses of champagne balanced between insults. But she stood beside Jason Kane, gripping his hand, holding on to the idea that love was enough. He told her this was his mother's birthday party. He said he wanted her to meet his family. He said they might be a little uptight, but that she had nothing to worry about. She believed him. She wore her best dress, the one she couldn't afford, but bought anyway. Talia had done her hair, told her she looked beautiful, warned her to stay alert. Now here she was, trying to smile while strangers eyed her like a spilled drink. And then came the voice. "Jason." "Who's this?" It was sharp, cold. Vivian Kane, the queen of the Kane estate. Jason cleared his throat. "This is Chloe. She's with me." Vivian's glass paused mid-sip. "The baker? From that corporate event?" Chloe froze. Jason didn't say a word. Vivian looked over her shoulder and smirked at her guests. He brought the help. Laughter. Quiet. Controlled. Cruel. Chloe's heart dropped. Her hands trembled. She turned to Jason. "Say something," she whispered. His eyes didn't meet hers. Maybe this was a mistake. That sentence ended everything. Chloe walked out of the party, her heels clicking against the floor like slow humiliation. She didn't run. She didn't cry. Not in front of them. But when she got home, she broke. Talia held her through the tears and reminded her of who she was. "He's a coward," Talia said. "I thought he loved me." Chloe replied. "He loved being with you, not standing by you." That night, Chloe deleted his number. She erased his name from her calendar. She threw away the necklace he gave her. But there was one thing she couldn't erase. 3 weeks later, Chloe sat in her bathroom holding a pregnancy test. Positive. 2 lines. No questions. Talia stared at her, hands on her hips. "You're not telling him," she said. "No." "Good." Chloe nodded, but inside, her chest felt like it might collapse. She wasn't ready. She didn't have money. She didn't have family. All she had was a bakery that barely broke even, and a best friend who showed up with cocoa every time life got hard. But when the baby kicked for the first time months later, Chloe smiled. When Hannah was born, and she cried for the first time, Chloe whispered, "I've got you." Even if no one else does. Hannah was beautiful. She had Chloe's warmth, her kindness, her curls, but her eyes, her nose, her expression when she concentrated, all Jason. Strangers noticed. Customers would say, "She looks just like someone famous." Chloe always smiled. She looks like herself. But at night, when Hannah laughed in her sleep or tilted her head just right, Chloe would freeze. It was like being haunted by the man who didn't fight for her. She told herself Hannah didn't need him. And she believed that. Mostly. 3 years passed. And then one morning, While Chloe wiped flour from her apron and adjusted the price board, she looked up and dropped her tray of croissants. Jason. He looked older, tired, wealthier, sadder. He didn't see her at first. He was looking at Hannah, who sat near the window, drawing in her coloring book. Jason smiled. "Cute kid," he said to the girl at the counter. "She's the owner's daughter," the girl replied. Jason turned and froze. "Chloe?" She didn't smile. "Jason, tell me in the comments, would you have told him the truth or walked away forever? Hit like if you're already locked into this story. Click subscribe and stick around, because what happens next will test every part of what we call forgiveness. This is only the beginning. Chloe stood in front of a mirror she didn't own, in a house she had never stepped into, wearing a dress she bought on a credit card she hadn't even told Talia about. Jason was late picking her up, but she forgave that. He said he'd been on a long call with his mother, final touches on the guest list, vendors, the press, security, valet. "It's just a birthday party," Chloe had said on the phone. "Not to my mother," Jason replied. "To her it's an annual performance, and this year, you're my act of rebellion." Chloe didn't quite understand what that meant, but she laughed anyway. She was nervous but happy. Jason had never said the word love, but the way he looked at her when she baked, when she wiped icing from his tie, when she talked about her dream to open a cafe of her own, it felt like love. She thought she mattered to him. She thought tonight was a beginning. The Kane estate wasn't a house. It was a declaration. White stone gates, polished floors, marble statues, staff moving like ghosts, silent and invisible. Guests arrived in cars Chloe had only seen in magazines, sleek, tinted, expensive. Jason walked beside her with his usual easy confidence, but even he seemed a bit more polished tonight, his hair perfect, his jacket crisp. His cufflinks looked like they belonged in a museum. She tried not to hold his arm too tightly. He looked over and smiled. "Relax." Chloe exhaled slowly. "I feel like I'm going to break something." "You're not," he said, squeezing her hand. "Just stay close to me." That small gesture made her feel brave. Inside the main hall, she was immediately aware that she didn't fit in. The women looked like they had stepped off runways, narrow waists, flawless makeup, effortless laughter. The men had that detached, powerful presence that only money could teach. Everyone held a drink like it was a signal, "I belong here." She felt eyes follow her. First a glance, then a whisper, then a nudge from one woman to another. Chloe smiled politely. She didn't want to assume the worst. Maybe it was just nerves. But when they reached the table where Jason's mother sat, everything changed. Vivian Kane was elegance wrapped in authority. She wore a black dress that looked custom-made, a diamond bracelet that could pay off a mortgage, and a stare so cold it could freeze water. "Jason," she said with a clipped nod. "Mother," he replied, stepping forward to kiss her cheek. Then he turned back and gently tugged Chloe forward. "This is Chloe," he said, his voice clear. "She's with me." Vivian didn't blink. She didn't smile. She looked Chloe over, slowly, calculatingly. "The baker?" she asked. Chloe swallowed hard. Jason gave a small laugh. "From that fundraiser event, yes. But—" Vivian turned to her guests. "He brought the help." Laughter followed. Light, measured, but deadly. Someone whispered, "That's bold." Another chuckled, "Well, she is pretty." Chloe felt the floor disappear beneath her. Her ears burned. Her eyes watered, but she didn't let it show. She looked at Jason. He didn't say a word. Vivian kept sipping her wine, unbothered. Celeste, Jason's former fiancée, and the woman Vivian still hoped he'd marry, walked up seconds later. Red dress, high heels, expensive smile. "Oh," Celeste said sweetly. "You're still bringing dates to these things?" Jason's mouth opened, then closed. Chloe whispered, "Say something." Jason's jaw clenched. Maybe this was a mistake. Chloe blinked. "I'm sorry," she asked, heart pounding. Jason looked away. "I didn't think." This would be such a big deal. You knew what this was, she said, her voice breaking. I didn't expect my mother to say that. But you didn't correct her. He stayed quiet. She turned around. The guests were watching. Some amused, some curious, no one kind. She picked up her clutch, held her head high, and walked away. She didn't run. She didn't cry. She didn't give them that power. But her heart, it shattered behind her ribs. That night, Chloe stood in Talia's apartment, silent. She had said nothing since walking in. Talia handed her a mug of hot chocolate. So, it was that bad. Chloe said nothing. Talia pulled out a blanket. You want to talk? Still silence. Chloe finally whispered. I begged him to say something. Just something. I stood there like a fool, and he said it was a mistake. Talia's mouth tightened. I told you. I know. He's weak. I thought he was kind. He is, Talia said, her tone hard. To people who look like him, to people his mother approves of, to people who won't cost him status. Chloe didn't go to work for 2 days. Talia handled the orders. When she returned, she threw herself into baking, anything to feel in control again. Jason didn't call. He didn't text. Nothing. Maybe she should have expected that. Maybe silence was better than another apology too late. Still, it hurt. Because love, even when broken, still echoes. 2 weeks had passed since the party. The laughter still echoed in Chloe's mind at night, soft, cruel, unforgettable. Jason's silence hurt more than the insult itself. She kept replaying the moment he looked away, not because he didn't hear his mother, but because he didn't want to correct her. That was the moment she stopped waiting for him. She had texted him once, "You owe me nothing. Consider us finished." He never replied. That was answer enough. The bakery was all Chloe had. It wasn't big, just a walk-up shop with 2 tables inside and a chalkboard menu out front, but it was hers. Every inch of it smelled like cinnamon, caramel, and effort. The walls were painted pale yellow. Talia insisted it felt like morning, even when it's raining. It had been her dream long before Jason, and she poured everything back into it now. She woke at 4:30 a.m., rolled dough at 5. First muffins out by 6:15. Doors open at 7. It was easier than thinking. She didn't want to talk about him, or her, or how it felt to be erased in front of people who never saw her in the first place. But that's the thing about grief. It finds its way into the cracks. Talia walked in one Monday morning, holding a red folder. "Don't panic," she said. "Too late," Chloe replied, staring at the stack of unpaid invoices. "I've been managing the books while you've been emotionally unavailable," Talia said, dropping the folder on the counter. "And, I hate to say it, but we're down, like low-key in the red." Chloe ran a hand through her hair. "It's the end of the month. Things always dip." "This isn't a dip," Talia said. "This is a sinkhole. I can cover some of it." "With what?" "Exposure and pride." Chloe gave a small smile, but it faded quickly. "I'm serious," Talia said. "We're going to need a loan or something." Chloe shook her head. "No loans. No debt. Then you're going to need a miracle." Chloe looked out the window at the slow line of mourning customers. "I'm fresh out of those." That evening, the bakery closed early. It had rained most of the day. Business was slow. The usual regulars were probably tucked inside warm homes with families and comforters and real kitchens. Talia locked up and stretched. "I'm out. I'll be back early tomorrow." Chloe nodded, eyes tired. Talia stopped at the door. "You sure you're okay?" "I'm getting there." Chloe cleaned up in silence, wiped counters, restocked sugars, labeled trays for the next day. She was about to head out when her stomach twisted. Sharp, sudden, deep. She dropped the bag of flour. Her first thought was food poisoning. The second was, no, not again. But the signs were there. Fatigue, nausea, the weird mood swings. She walked out of the bakery, locked the door, and went straight to the pharmacy down the block. 10 minutes later, she sat in her apartment staring at a plastic stick. 2 lines. Talia came in to find Chloe sitting on the couch in the dark. No TV, no lights, just her and the test on the table. "Talk to me," Talia said, slowly approaching. Chloe pointed. Talia looked down, then sat beside her. "Is it his?" she asked. Chloe nodded. Talia exhaled. "You didn't tell me you two were still—" "We weren't. Not after that night. It must have been before." Silence. Then Talia leaned back and said, "Well, damn." For days, Chloe said nothing. She went to work. She smiled. She baked. But something had shifted. Not fear, not quite anger either. Something more. Anchored. She wasn't going to tell him. Talia supported that fully. "You don't owe him access to her, or him, or it, or whatever," she snapped. "I know. You want me to help schedule a termination appointment?" Chloe thought about it. Really thought. And then said, "No." Talia nodded once. "Then we figure it out." That was all Chloe needed to hear. Pregnancy wasn't easy. She threw up during baking. Her ankles swelled by noon. She had to sit between batches just to stay upright. But Chloe didn't complain. This baby wasn't about regret, or revenge, or shame. It was hers. She found a small OB/GYN clinic with sliding scale payments. Talia came with her to the first appointment, cracking jokes the entire time. When the heartbeat played on the screen, Chloe closed her eyes and whispered, "Hi, I'm your mom." The delivery wasn't magical. It wasn't Instagram-worthy. No fairy lights. No partner holding her hand. No gentle music in the background. It was 13 hours of sweat, pain, and pushing through cramps that felt like war. It was Chloe gasping through every contraction while Talia yelled at the nurse to stop acting like she's never seen a black woman give birth before. But then, at 3:14 a.m., a sound broke through the pain. A cry. Sharp, clear, loud. Chloe's arms opened instinctively. And, just like that, love had a face. She named her Hannah. No middle name. No hyphenated legacy. Just Hannah. She didn't need Jason's last name. She didn't need anyone's. Talia placed the baby in Chloe's arms and whispered, "It's her against the world. But she's got you." Chloe stared into those grey-blue eyes, Jason's eyes, and said quietly, "You're going to have my love, and only mine." They went home 2 days later. Chloe's apartment was small, but it smelled like fresh muffins and baby powder. She slept on the couch while Hannah took the bedroom. Talia stayed for the first week, bringing meals, changing diapers and setting alarms. "Your hormones are going to mess with you," she warned. "I'm already messed up," Chloe replied, laughing through tears. But the days passed, and the nights, though sleepless, were filled with something sacred. Every coo, every yawn, every time Hannah wrapped her tiny hand around Chloe's finger. Jason was nowhere in sight, and Chloe had no plans of letting him in. 6 weeks later, Chloe returned to the bakery with Hannah in a wrap tied across her chest. Customers blinked. "You brought a baby." "She's the new manager," Chloe joked. Business was still slow, but slowly, people came back. Word spread that the cinnamon rolls were fluffier, the banana bread softer. One customer even said, "The love hits different." Chloe smiled. "It's baked in." Every night, she closed the bakery, fed Hannah, sang lullabies she made up on the spot, and whispered, "I'm glad you found me." Even if he didn't. By 6 months, Hannah had Jason's nose. By 1 year, she had his full face. One customer said, "She looks like someone on the cover of Forbes." Another joked, "You sure the dad isn't famous?" Chloe always replied, "She looks like herself." But the truth never left her. Hannah was a mirror, a walking reminder, not of pain, but of what Chloe had survived. Talia took a photo one morning, Chloe baking with flour on her cheeks, Hannah in a sling, sleeping on her chest. She posted it online with a caption, "Single mother, small business, no man, no problem." The post went viral locally, orders increased. A journalist reached out to do a short feature. Chloe smiled politely but declined. She didn't want attention. She wanted peace. On Hannah's second birthday, they celebrated with a cupcake tower and a dozen balloons taped to the wall. Chloe cried that night, not because she was sad, but because she never thought she could do it. She remembered Jason's silence, his shrug, his cowardice, his maybe this was a mistake. And then she looked at Hannah, sitting cross-legged in her princess pajamas, frosting on her nose. And Chloe whispered, "If you're the mistake, then I thank God he made it." Chloe didn't chase. She didn't beg. She built a life in silence, with strength, grace, and grit. And that deserves to be seen. If you believe that walking away isn't weakness, but wisdom, type "she didn't break, she built" in the comments. Hit like if this chapter moved you, and click subscribe. 3 years had passed since Chloe walked out of Jason Kane's life. 3 years of quiet mornings, solo bakery shifts, and bedtime lullabies. 3 years of scraping through bills, reading bedtime stories twice, and skipping her own meals just to make sure Hannah had enough. 3 years of pretending Jason didn't exist, except when she looked at her daughter and saw his eyes, grey-blue, sharp like memory, warm like regret. Chloe learned to live with it. The resemblance, the echo, the constant reminder. She had mastered the art of smiling through it all. Until one ordinary Tuesday morning. Jason walked into her bakery. The bell above the door rang. Chloe stood behind the counter, piping cream cheese frosting onto red velvet cupcakes. Hannah sat by the window, legs dangling, crayon in hand, humming a tune only 3-year-olds could make up. "Cute kid," a voice said casually. She didn't look up. "Thanks." The man stepped closer. "She yours?" Chloe looked up, and time froze. Jason Kane, older, broader shoulders, same eyes, slight stubble on his jaw now, hair trimmed neatly, suit tailored like always. But his face, he looked tired, like someone who hadn't slept properly in years. He blinked. "Chloe." Chloe didn't answer. She calmly set down her piping bag and looked him square in the face. "Jason." He stepped back slightly. "I didn't know you owned this place." "I do. I thought it was just a pop-up. I built it after I left your party humiliated." He winced. "I deserved that." "More than you know." There was silence between them. Not awkward, just waited. Jason turned to look at the little girl still humming near the window. She grinned at him, unaware, crayon still dancing on her napkin. "She's adorable," he said. Chloe stepped in front of him. "She's not up for discussion." Jason nodded slowly. "Right. Sorry." He took a step back. "I should go." "You should," Chloe replied without blinking. He walked out without looking back, and Chloe stood still, chest rising and falling slowly. She didn't cry, but her hands shook as she wiped the counter. He came back the next day, then again the day after. Each time, he ordered the same thing, black coffee, raspberry Danish. He didn't ask about Hannah, didn't push, just sat by the window, sipping slowly, watching the world pass. But Chloe knew what he was doing, waiting. And on the 4th day, he finally asked. "Chloe," he said, gently placing his cup on the counter. She glanced at him. "What?" Jason cleared his throat. "I need to ask you something. Not to cause problems, not to make a scene." She folded her arms. Then asked quietly. He looked over at Hannah. She was stacking sugar packets and whispering a song to herself. He turned back to Chloe. "Is she mine?" Chloe didn't blink. She had rehearsed this moment in her head 100 times. She had practiced every possible answer, anger, silence, deflection. But now that it was here, none of that felt right. "Why do you care now?" she asked. Jason swallowed. "Because," I saw her smile, and something inside me shifted. "I've never been a man to chase ghosts, Chloe, but I can't shake this. You didn't seem shaken when you let your mother destroy me." "I was weak. You were silent." He nodded. She added, "That silence cost you a daughter." Jason's eyes dropped. Chloe turned to grab a tray. "You want to know? Fine, but it won't change the last 3 years. You lost them. I know. Then don't expect grace. I don't. I just need truth. She looked at him again, deeply, painfully. She's yours. Jason stood still, processing. Chloe waited for an outburst, a denial, a question. Instead, he nodded slowly. I want a test, he said gently. Not to challenge you, but to make it real, on paper, in blood. Chloe raised an eyebrow. You think I lied? No, he said quickly. I think I abandoned you. And I want to own every part of that now. She thought for a moment, then whispered, Fine. He blinked. You get one shot. You do this clean. Quiet. No drama. No press. No lawyers. Jason nodded. And if that paper tells you what you already know, Chloe said slowly, you don't get to walk away twice. He whispered, I won't. The test happened the next morning. Jason brought Miles, his longtime assistant, now with graying temples and softer eyes. The clinic was small, discreet, and neutral. Chloe filled out paperwork, while Hannah played with a stuffed rabbit. Jason sat quietly on the far side of the waiting room. Hannah didn't know who he was, but she looked at him like she somehow recognized something in his face. She even smiled when their eyes met. That made Chloe clench her jaw. The swab took 5 minutes. Jason didn't flinch. Hannah sat calmly. Jason watched Chloe as she buckled Hannah back into her seat after. Thank you, he said, voice low. I'm not doing this for you, she replied. She deserves to know. He reached into his coat and handed her an envelope. What's this? If it's positive, which it will be, I want you to read that. Chloe didn't take it at first. Then, slowly, she reached out, grabbed it, and tucked it into her purse. He watched her close the door without another word. 3 days later, the results arrived. Jason received his copy early. Chloe opened hers that night after closing the bakery. She sat at her kitchen table, Hannah asleep in the next room, and read the line 3 times. Probability of paternity, 99.9999%. She didn't cry. She didn't feel vindicated. She felt still. Then she opened the envelope Jason had given her. Inside, a single sheet of paper, handwritten. I didn't protect you when you needed me. I listened to voices that didn't deserve a seat at our table. But I see now what I lost, and I won't miss another day. Not if you'll let me try. Jason. Chloe closed the letter and stared at the ceiling. She whispered to herself, You don't get to try. You either show up or you stay gone. Jason hadn't been to his mother's house in nearly 8 months. But that evening, after reading the DNA result confirming what he already knew, he drove straight to the Kane estate. Not out of obligation, out of necessity. Vivian had called him twice already that day. And Jason knew how this would go. She'd pretend she didn't know. Then she'd admit she knew. Then she'd try to control the narrative. She always did. He parked beside the fountain she insisted on filling with roses every week, climbed the marble stairs and knocked once on the carved wooden door. Vivian opened it herself. Not a butler, not a housekeeper. Her, wearing silk, holding a glass of white wine. She already knew. So, she said, leading him inside, It's true. Jason walked past her into the drawing room. Yes. Vivian poured herself more wine. You took a test. I didn't need to. But yes. Vivian sipped slowly. And Hannah is mine. She turned toward the window. Do you know how this makes us look? Jason's eyes narrowed. Is that what you care about? We are the Kanes. People expect, I have a daughter, Mother. She's not. She is. She's mine. Vivian turned, cold and calm. She's not from this family. She was born out of chaos, humiliation, scandal. Jason walked forward. She was born from love. Vivian laughed bitterly. You didn't love her, Mother. Jason's jaw clenched. I did. You made sure I forgot how much. Vivian raised an eyebrow. Don't blame me for your weak spine. Jason stepped back. You're right, I was weak. I let you dictate what was acceptable, who was acceptable, and I lost something irreplaceable because of it. Vivian's lips tightened. You're going to ruin your future over a baker and a child you didn't even know existed. Jason's eyes lit with something sharp. I'm not ruining anything, he said. I'm rebuilding something real. Vivian put down her glass. If you stay with them, the board will react. Investors will talk. Then, let them, he said flatly. Let everyone talk. Vivian blinked, stunned. Jason adjusted his jacket. I'll never let you humiliate her again. And he walked out. Later that night, Chloe stood in her kitchen making tea when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something told her to answer. Hello? A woman's voice, cool and sharp, slid through the line. You should have stayed gone. Chloe stood still. Who is this? You know exactly who I am. Vivian. Chloe's throat tightened, but her tone didn't shake. You called my phone. That was your mistake. You think Jason will rewrite his life for you. I didn't ask him to write me into anything. You're a liability. Chloe laughed once. You think this scares me? You had a child without telling him. Some would call that manipulation. Some would call what you did at your dinner table psychological abuse. Silence. Then Vivian said quietly, You'll never be one of us. Chloe smiled. I never wanted to be. She ended the call. And that was the last time they spoke. 2 days later, Jason returned to the bakery. Hannah was coloring by the window. Chloe wiped down trays. He didn't say much, just walked to the register and handed Chloe a small box. What's this? She asked. I kept this, he said softly. All these years. She opened it. Inside was a gold charm, an airplane, tiny, delicate. The same one she had once jokingly pointed at in a store window when they were still, whatever they were. You remembered. I tried to forget, he admitted. But I couldn't. She held the box for a second. Why now, Jason? Because I missed everything, and I don't want to miss what's next. He looked over at Hannah. She smiled at me yesterday. I think she knows something. She's smart, Chloe said. She's yours. Of course she is. Chloe closed the box and handed it back. Keep it. If you want to give it to her one day, that's your call. Jason nodded slowly. She asked who you were, Chloe said quietly. I told her you were a friend. Jason's voice caught. That hurt to hear, but I know I don't get to rush this. No, you don't. He stood for a moment, then turned. Before he reached the door, Chloe spoke. She likes strawberry milk and bedtime stories, and when she's nervous, she picks at her left sleeve. Jason turned back. Thank you. She's got your eyes, Chloe added. Jason gave a small, pained smile. Yeah, I know. That night, Chloe sat on the porch while Hannah slept. Talia joined her with 2 cups of tea. So, Talia said, you let him see her? He asked. And you said yes? I didn't say no. Talia stared. You're braver than me. I'm tired of fighting what's already true. Talia took a sip. You still love him? Chloe didn't answer right away. She watched the wind move the curtain inside the living room. I loved the version of him I thought was brave, she said. And now, I think he's trying to become that man. Talia looked over. Will you let him? Chloe whispered. We'll see. The first time Hannah asked about Jason, it was barely a whisper. Mommy, who's that man who reads me books sometimes? Chloe froze at the sink. It had been 3 weeks since Jason began coming by regularly. Never unannounced, never demanding. Always with something small in his hand. A new book, a puzzle, a coloring set. And always he stayed near the front, letting Hannah come to him. The rhythm had become familiar, but hearing her ask out loud made Chloe's heart skip. She dried her hands and walked over to kneel in front of her daughter. He's someone important, Chloe said gently, and he wants to get to know you. Hannah tilted her head. Why? Chloe smiled. Because he missed a lot, and he doesn't want to miss more. Hannah blinked. He smells like your cookies. Chloe laughed softly. That's because he used to eat a lot of them. Is he nice? Chloe looked toward the window, where Jason waited with a small book clutched in his hand. He's learning, she said. Hannah nodded, then grabbed her backpack. Okay. Can he read me the one with the dragon again? That night, Jason sat on the floor reading The Princess and the Red Dragon. Hannah leaned against his arm, completely absorbed. Chloe stood behind the counter, watching. His voice was steady, gentle, not performative. Real. He wasn't trying to win anything. He was just present. When he finished, Hannah clapped. Jason smiled. You liked it? I like how the dragon doesn't eat her, Hannah said. He stays. Jason blinked, then nodded. Yeah. He stays. Chloe's throat tightened. It wasn't just a story. Over the next month, Jason kept showing up. He didn't push for weekends or overnight visits. He didn't mention lawyers or custody. He didn't talk about his reputation, his mother, or his past mistakes. He showed up for story time, and for waffles on Wednesdays, and for painting cookies on Fridays. Hannah began calling him Mr. J. Chloe didn't correct her. Neither did Jason. One morning, Chloe came out of the back room and found Hannah sitting on Jason's lap, painting a cookie shaped like a flower. Jason had frosting on his tie. He didn't seem to care. You ever eat your mistakes? Hannah asked, biting into a messy cookie. Jason laughed. Every day. Chloe leaned against the doorway and watched as Jason wiped Hannah's fingers with a napkin and said gently, Want to try again? Hannah nodded. Chloe quietly stepped back and whispered to herself, He's not the man I left behind. Not anymore. 2 days later, Chloe asked Jason to stay for dinner. It was simple. Pasta, salad, juice, nothing grand, but it felt like a ceremony. They sat around the table, just the three of them, talking about favorite cartoons and songs that made them dance. When Hannah left the table and started playing on the rug, Chloe leaned in. I see you, Jason. He looked up, surprised. You're here, she said, consistently, quietly. That matters. Jason swallowed. I'm not trying to fix what I broke. I just want to be part of what's growing now. She nodded. He looked toward Hannah, then back at Chloe. She asked me yesterday if I would be her dad. Chloe froze. I didn't say yes, he added quickly. I told her I'd ask you first. Chloe stared at him for a long time. Then she asked, Do you want to be her father? Jason's voice cracked. More than I want anything. Chloe whispered, Then don't ever leave again. I won't. That night, after Hannah went to sleep, they sat on the porch. Same old creaky chairs, same string lights, same soft night air. Jason stared at the sky. I used to think being a man meant always being in control. Chloe leaned back. What do you think now? Now I think it means knowing when you were wrong and showing up anyway. She looked over at him. His hands were still. His eyes were steady. Thank you, she said. For what? For being who I needed you to be 3 years ago. Jason shook his head. I wasn't. Chloe corrected him. You are now. Hannah started calling him Daddy a week later. No ceremony, no hesitation, just a sleepy morning moment while she reached for her shoes. Daddy, where's my pink sock? Jason blinked, then smiled. Chloe, behind her, quietly wiped a tear before anyone noticed. Jason never expected love to come with sticky fingers and a glitter obsession. But Hannah didn't ask for permission to change him. She simply showed up with a smile that looked like his, a laugh that sounded like Chloe's, and a world of questions he couldn't avoid. Why do I have your eyes? Did you eat broccoli when you were little? Why don't you live here? He tried to answer everything truthfully, slowly, gently, because Chloe was right. He didn't earn this overnight. But every bedtime story, every coloring page, every scraped knee he bandaged without flinching, it added up. Piece by piece, he was learning how to be a father. One Saturday morning, Jason took Hannah to the farmer's market. Chloe watched from the porch, arms folded across her chest. She's going to ask for everything, she warned. Jason grinned. She already did. He lifted Hannah into the car seat, fastened her buckle like he'd practiced, and waved before driving off. Chloe stood still, watching the car disappear. She had let him take her daughter alone. The world didn't fall apart. It just kept turning. At the market, Jason held Hannah's hand tightly. She pulled him toward every flower stand and fruit stall. She asked a million questions, pointed out things he didn't see, and picked a strawberry that looked like a tiny heart. "She talks a lot," the vendor said, smiling. "She gets that from her mom," Jason replied. "She looks like you, though." Jason paused. "I know." Back at home, Chloe worked through inventory and prepped dough for Sunday's rush. The bell above the door rang once. "Be right with you," she called from the kitchen. She walked out and froze. Vivian, standing there in pearls, sunglasses, and a forced smile. Chloe didn't speak. Vivian looked around slowly. "It's cozy." Chloe crossed her arms. "You lost." Vivian removed her sunglasses. "I came to see the child." Chloe stepped forward. "She's not on display." "I just want to look at her." "No." Vivian sighed. "He's ruined everything for her." Chloe blinked. "You mean he's made space for her? She will never be accepted in our world." "Then thank God," Chloe shot back. Vivian straightened her back. "You think you've won? There was no game. Just a man, a woman, and a child. You tried to control him. You lost. She doesn't belong with us. She belongs with people who love her." Vivian stared coldly. "You'll regret keeping him tied to this." Chloe took a deep breath. "You regret the wrong things, Mrs. Kane." When Jason returned, Chloe was waiting on the porch. "She came," she said before he could speak. He didn't have to ask who. She asked to see Hannah. Jason rubbed his forehead. "I'm sorry. She doesn't scare me. I should have warned you. You should have stood up to her years ago." He sat beside her. "I didn't know how," he admitted. Chloe looked over at him. "And now?" "I still don't know how. But I'm not letting her near Hannah again." "That I do know." They sat quietly. Inside, Hannah sang to herself while arranging her flowers in a glass jar. Jason whispered, "She looks so much like me." Chloe nodded. Every day. That night, Hannah asked to sleep in her parents' bed. Jason hesitated. "You sure?" Chloe looked down at her daughter in her pink pajamas. She had a long day. Jason climbed in on one side, Chloe on the other. Hannah curled up between them like it was always meant to be. For a while, no one spoke. Then Hannah whispered, "Mummy?" "Yes, baby?" "Did Daddy come back because I asked?" Chloe's eyes welled up. She looked over Hannah to where Jason lay, still and silent. "No," Chloe said softly. "He came back because he finally grew up." Jason's voice cracked in the dark. "And I stayed because of you." Hannah giggled. "Even when I eat all the cookies." "Even then," they said together. Jason was learning fatherhood in real time. It wasn't about big gestures. It was small things, mundane things. Remembering which stuffed animal Hannah couldn't sleep without, knowing she liked her milk warm, not hot. Understanding that when she picked at her food, she was either bored or nervous, not stubborn. He never complained. Not when she spilled juice in his car. Not when she interrupted his calls with off-key singing. Not even when she accidentally called the toaster Daddy and laughed so hard she nearly choked on her cereal. He was learning her rhythm. And Chloe? She was watching all of it unfold. The neighbors had noticed. They saw Jason arrive early, leave late. Some asked questions. Most didn't. One evening, Mrs. Langford from across the street waved Chloe over while she watered her garden. "That him?" she asked, nodding toward Jason, helping Hannah ride a scooter in the driveway. "Yes. He looks softer than he did years ago." Chloe smiled faintly. "He is. You letting him back in?" Chloe looked at Jason holding Hannah's hand, running beside her like the sidewalk was a racetrack. "I'm letting him show me who he is now," she said. Mrs. Langford gave a knowing nod. That's more than most get. Later that night, Chloe found Jason in the kitchen washing dishes. You don't have to do that, she said, drying her hands. I want to. She leaned against the counter. He asked, Why didn't you tell me? She paused, then said, Because you didn't fight for me, and I wasn't going to beg a man who couldn't say my name with pride. Jason stared at the sink. I was scared of losing everything. I was everything. He turned slowly. I know that now. Chloe crossed her arms. And what do you plan to do with that knowledge? Be better, he said, and stay. The next morning, Hannah ran into the bakery carrying a paper crown she made in daycare. Look, Daddy, she yelled. I'm the Queen of Muffins. Jason bowed dramatically. Your Majesty. Chloe burst out laughing from behind the counter. It was a sound she hadn't heard from herself in years. Full, free. Customers noticed too, the warmth between them, the way Jason glanced at Chloe like she hung the moon, the way Hannah danced between them like her parents had never been apart. Someone asked Talia, Are they back together? Talia shrugged. They're building something. What they call it is their business. But not everyone was happy. Vivian sent Jason a formal letter through her legal team. It stated concern over the Kane family's image and advised him to refrain from making public appearances with individuals who pose a reputational risk. Jason read it twice, then forwarded it to Chloe. She replied with one word, Wow. Jason responded with 3. She doesn't matter. He called a board meeting the following week. He stepped into the Kane Holdings tower, walked into the conference room, and calmly placed a photo of Hannah on the table. She's mine, he said, and I won't be ashamed of her. The room went quiet. She's smart, funny, brave. Everything we say this company stands for. So if being her father makes me less valuable here, I'll sell my shares and leave today. No one responded. Jason looked each board member in the eye. Now, if that's all, I've got to go pick up my daughter from daycare. And he walked out. That night, Chloe lit 2 candles on the kitchen table. She had cooked his favorite meal, spaghetti with garlic bread and a simple side salad. Jason looked surprised. What's all this? Chloe poured him a glass of lemonade. You showed up for her. He blinked. Of course I did. You stood up to your mother. I had to. You didn't have to do any of it, Jason. But you did. He looked down. Chloe continued. You've changed. He met her eyes. Not completely, she added. I still see glimpses of who you were. Jason nodded slowly. I'm not proud of that man. I'm not asking you to erase him. I'm asking you to never become him again. I won't. They sat in silence. Then Chloe said, You can sleep here tonight. Jason inhaled slowly. With you? With us? Jason didn't sleep much that night. Not because the couch was uncomfortable. Chloe had given him a spare blanket, and Hannah had insisted he sleep with her purple dinosaur pillow. He didn't sleep because he couldn't stop watching them. From the couch, he saw the dim light of Chloe's room, heard her soft hum as she brushed Hannah's curls, listened to their good-night ritual. Good night, Mommy. Good night, my moon. And good night to Daddy, too. A pause. Even if he snores. Jason chuckled quietly into the pillow. It felt surreal. For the first time in his adult life, success wasn't measured in contracts or board votes. It was the sound of his daughter giggling in her sleep down the hallway. The next morning, he made pancakes. Not the boxed kind, the real deal. Chloe walked in, rubbing her eyes. You cook? Jason flipped a perfect golden pancake. I YouTubed it at 3 a.m. She raised a brow. Because I didn't want her first memory of me making breakfast to be burnt eggs. Chloe grabbed a mug and poured herself coffee. Smart. Hannah ran out in her pajamas, barefoot, and hugged Jason's legs. Daddy, can I have the first pancake? You can have the best one, he smiled. Chloe watched the scene like it wasn't hers, like she had stepped into someone else's life. But it was hers now. And it was good. Later that day, Talia stopped by the bakery. She stared at Jason's stocking shelves like he'd been doing it his whole life. Well, she said, I see the ghost of heartbreak past is now folding muffin liners. Jason grinned. Hi, Talia. She nodded. You still walk like a CEO. I still am one. Funny. You look more like a dad now. He smiled. That's the goal. Chloe emerged from the kitchen and hugged Talia. Jason took Hannah out to the porch so the women could talk. Talia leaned against the counter. So, this is real now? Chloe nodded. Feels like it. You trust him? Chloe looked out the window where Jason was tying Hannah's shoes and saying something that made her laugh. I trust what I see. That weekend, they took Hannah to the park. Jason wore sneakers. Chloe brought snacks. Hannah wore a tutu over her jeans, because why not? They laid out a blanket. Hannah played tag with a little boy from school while Chloe rested her head on Jason's shoulder. I missed this, he said. Chloe looked at him. I missed ordinary. She nodded. It's not glamorous, but it's ours. Jason turned slightly. Can I ask you? Chloe raised a brow. Is this going to ruin the moment? Depends. Ask. He exhaled. What would you think about us moving in together? Chloe sat up. Jason held up both hands. Not because I want control, not because I need to prove anything. Just, Hannah asks every night why we're not all in the same place. Chloe looked away. You're asking to move into our peace, she said. I'm asking to protect it. She didn't answer right away. Then she said, I'll think about it. Jason nodded. That's all I needed. That night, after Jason left, Chloe sat on the porch. She watched the stars, counted how many months had passed since he walked back into their world, thought about how many times he had chosen them, quietly, consistently. She pulled out her journal, wrote one line. He is not the man I loved. He is the man I now believe. The next morning, Jason arrived earlier than usual. Hannah was still in bed. Chloe was in the kitchen, flour on her cheeks. He held up a small envelope. She froze. Please don't be another test. Jason laughed. No, it's just something small. She wiped her hands and opened it. Inside was a photo. Her and Hannah, taken months ago. One she didn't even know he had snapped. Hannah was laughing. Chloe was looking down at her with the softest expression. On the back, a note. This is why I came back. This is what I almost lost. Chloe held the photo to her chest. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. Jason was adjusting to fatherhood like it was his second skin. Early mornings with Hannah brushing her doll's hair beside him while he checked email. Midday bakery runs where he handled the register while Chloe prepped orders. Evenings on the porch, watching the sun set with Chloe curled into his side. He never asked for more, not after everything he'd lost. He was grateful for every piece she gave him. But life has a way of testing peace, and that test came with red lipstick, high heels, and a voice he hadn't heard in over a year. Celeste. She walked into the bakery like she owned it, like time had stopped the moment she left. Chloe looked up from the espresso machine and froze. She knew who it was before she even turned fully. Some women didn't need introductions. They carried drama in their perfume. Jason here? Celeste asked, cool and direct. Chloe didn't flinch. No. Celeste scanned the place. Cute. Smaller than I imagined. It's not for imagining. It's for working. Celeste tilted her head. You always this charming? Chloe smiled without humor. Only when I'm cleaning messes. Celeste's grin tightened. Then she looked toward the back room and saw Hannah. Jason entered a few minutes later, holding a coffee carrier and humming to himself. He stopped cold. Celeste turned. Well. Jason's face dropped. Celeste. She gave a short nod. You weren't returning my messages. I didn't think there was anything left to say. There isn't, she said, walking slowly toward him. But I had to see it. Jason set the carrier down carefully. See what? The life you threw away. He looked at Chloe. She looked tired but unbothered. Then he looked at Hannah, who had come out holding a cookie, blinking up at the stranger in red. Celeste stared at the girl. She looks like you. Jason stepped forward, gently shielding Hannah. "She's mine." Celeste blinked. "You're claiming her now?" "I always should have." Chloe placed a hand on Hannah's shoulder. "Go back and finish your drawing, sweetheart." Hannah obeyed. Celeste crossed her arms. "So this is your new world?" Jason nodded. "It's the real one. You're choosing this over what we had." Jason looked around, at the flour-dusted counters, at the crayon marks on the register, at Chloe, who had every reason to shut him out, but didn't, and Hannah, whose smile had rebuilt him piece by piece. "I didn't choose this over us," he said. "I chose this because there was never an us to begin with." Later that night, Chloe stood on the porch while Jason washed dishes inside. Talia called. "She showed up?" Talia asked, like a storm in heels. "What did you do?" "Nothing, girl." "I didn't need to," Chloe said, watching Jason through the kitchen window. "He handled it. And I believed him." Talia exhaled. "That's new." Chloe smiled. "Yeah, it is." The next day, Jason took Hannah to a bookstore. She picked out 3 books, 2 about unicorns and 1 about a squirrel who learned how to fly. "Why this one?" Jason asked. "Because he believed he could," she said, already flipping through pages. Jason stared at her for a moment, then nodded. "Good reason." They sat in the kids' reading corner. Jason read, while Hannah corrected his voices for the characters. A woman nearby leaned over and whispered, "You two look just alike." Jason smiled. "I know." When they got back, Chloe was icing cupcakes. Jason leaned over and kissed her cheek. "She picked this one for you," he said, handing her the Flying Squirrel book. Chloe flipped through it. "You read this one already?" "Twice." She looked at him, smiling. "You're becoming a real dad." He kissed her forehead. "Because I've got a real daughter." Hannah, standing nearby, lifted her arms. Group hug. They all leaned in. A mess of laughter, frosting, and peace. And somewhere outside, the past stood watching through the window. But inside, they didn't care. They were building something too real to be shaken. Jason stood at the doorway, watching Chloe sleep with Hannah curled beside her. A book was still open on Chloe's lap. Hannah's tiny arm draped across her mother's belly like a claim of safety. He leaned on the frame and smiled. This was home now. But nothing real stays untouched by the world outside. And Jason's past wasn't done testing him. The next morning, Miles, his assistant, showed up at the bakery with coffee, contracts, and an irritated face. "She's causing problems," Miles said, setting the papers down hard. Chloe raised an eyebrow. "She?" "Celeste." Jason sighed. "What now?" "She's threatening to leak company emails, conversations, anything that makes you look unstable." Chloe stiffened. "She's doing what?" she asked. Miles looked at her carefully. "She's not over being replaced." Jason frowned. "She was never replaced. She walked out of something fake. I walked into something real. She doesn't see it that way." Miles muttered. "And her family still has press ties." Chloe leaned on the counter. "Let her talk. This bakery existed before Jason. It'll exist after, if it needs to." Jason turned to her. "It won't come to that." "You sure?" Jason nodded slowly. "This time, yes." Vivian called again that night. Jason didn't want to answer, but he did. She skipped pleasantries. "I heard from Celeste." "Of course you did. She says you've lost your mind. Maybe I finally found it. She says you're humiliating the family. I think you managed that just fine without me." There was a pause. Then she said, "I won't be seen with them." Jason gripped the phone harder. "Then don't come near us. You'll regret this." "No," he said calmly. "I regret not standing up to you years ago." Then he hung up. Later that week, Chloe noticed Jason wasn't smiling as much. He went quiet during breakfast. He stared a little too long at the same email, and he flinched when his phone buzzed. She pulled him into the kitchen while Talia watched the front. "What's going on?" she asked. Jason looked at her, exhausted. "I'm trying to protect you two." Chloe stepped closer. "Don't protect us in silence. It doesn't work." Jason's voice cracked. I don't want to ruin this. You're not. He looked at her, eyes glassy. I've ruined everything I've ever touched. She cupped his face. You didn't ruin me. You gave Hannah a father. He kissed her palm. She kissed his lips. And for a moment, the noise stopped. The next day, Jason stood at a press conference for his company. Questions came fast. Why did you resign your CEO role? Is it true you fathered a child with a former employee? Are you being sued? Jason smiled calmly. I stepped down because my priorities changed. My daughter taught me more than boardrooms ever did. Do you admit the child is yours? I celebrate that she is. Are you still with the woman? I'm with the woman I should have never left. Reporters murmured, flashes fired. But Jason didn't flinch. He walked off that stage and went straight to the bakery. Chloe had seen the whole thing on a laptop in the kitchen. She didn't say a word. She simply walked over and hugged him tight. That night, she invited him to stay, not as a guest, but as something closer. He helped bathe Hannah, read her books, clean the dishes. When the lights dimmed and Hannah fell asleep, Jason stood by the window, nervous. Chloe walked up behind him, arms wrapping around his waist. I saw what you did, she whispered. I meant every word. I know. She turned him around and touched his shirt collar. You ready to stop living in pieces? I want to live where you are. Chloe didn't reply. She kissed him. Slow, deep, like a new beginning. Later, curled together on the couch, Jason traced her fingers and said, I still hear my mother's voice in my head. Chloe whispered, I still hear yours from that night you left me. Jason's eyes welled. I'm sorry. I know. You think, I can be enough now. She kissed his forehead. You already are. Hannah came into the room holding a drawing. 3 stick figures, one tall with brown hair, one curly-haired with a dress, and one tiny with pigtails. What's this? Chloe asked. Hannah pointed. You, me, and Daddy. Jason froze. You called me. I heard Mama say it, Hannah said proudly. And I like it. Jason pulled her in and kissed her hair. I like it too. Sunday afternoons used to mean noise, baking, cartoons, sweeping, Hannah giggling as flour dusted her nose. But this Sunday was different. It was quiet. Not because anyone was angry, because everyone was content. Jason sat on the rug beside Hannah, carefully helping her piece together a puzzle. The edges didn't always fit, but they kept trying. Each piece mattered. Each piece was part of something whole. Chloe stood in the kitchen, watching them. This was healing. This was enough. Still, the outside world wasn't done with them yet. Talia barged in that afternoon, like she owned the door. And to be fair, she kind of did. Okay, she said, tossing her purse on the counter. Why is the internet exploding with your man's face and your child's likeness? Chloe blinked. What? Talia turned her phone around. A gossip site. Full headline. CEO leaves fame for family. Meet his hidden daughter and the woman he rejected. Underneath, a photo of Jason at the press conference. Then, a blurred photo of Chloe behind the bakery counter. And finally, a stolen snapshot of Hannah walking home from school with Jason. Chloe's stomach dropped. Jason walked in behind her, saw the screen, and went still. I told them not to involve her, he said tightly. You think the press cares about your requests? Talia snapped. Hannah peeked from the hallway. Mom? Why's Auntie mad? Jason gently turned her around. Go finish your puzzle, sweetheart. When she was out of earshot, Chloe turned to him. This is what you were afraid of. He nodded. I wanted to handle it before it got this far. And now? Jason's jaw flexed. Now we protect her, together. That night, Jason sat down with Chloe and Talia over tea. I can hire a media team, he said. Block search engines. Get defamation lawyers. And what do I tell Hannah at school? Chloe asked quietly. When other kids start repeating what they hear at home. Jason looked pained. Talia softened. You do what you've always done, Chloe. You show her strength, Jason added, and I'll show her she's never alone again. The next morning, Jason walked Hannah to school. He didn't wear sunglasses or a cap. He didn't shrink. Other parents stared. Some whispered. One bold woman muttered, "Must be nice, living in a fairy tale now." Jason stopped and turned. "No," he said. "This is a life we fought for. And we're still fighting." He kissed Hannah's head. "Come on, love." She grinned up at him. "I'm not scared, Daddy." He smiled. "Me neither." Chloe watched from the bakery window, heart full and heavy at once. The man who once let her walk away was now walking their daughter into her future. She whispered, "Let them stare." Talia came up beside her. "You still love him, don't you?" Chloe didn't blink. "I never stopped." That evening, Jason came home with a simple bouquet. Daisies. Chloe's favorite. "I didn't come to impress," he said. "I came to stay." Chloe took the flowers. "You sure about that?" Jason stepped closer. "I've got therapy twice a week. I stepped down as CEO. I've got a lawyer cleaning up the press. But none of that scares me as much as losing the two of you again." She stared at him. "You're different." "I had to break," he said, voice low, "so I could rebuild." Chloe didn't answer right away. She stepped aside and let him in. They made dinner together. Spaghetti, garlic bread, over-sweet lemonade. After dishes, Jason sat with Hannah, drawing and laughing. Later, Chloe handed him a blanket on the couch. He caught her hand. "I don't need a bed, but can I have a promise?" Chloe raised a brow. "That you won't disappear," he said. "Even if we fight, even if I mess up." She looked into his eyes. "I'll promise that if you promise one thing, anything, stay real." Jason nodded slowly. "No more hiding," he said. "No more shame," she replied. And they sealed it with a kiss that wasn't rushed or fiery. It was steady, quiet, true. Weeks passed. The bakery boomed with new orders, half because of the gossip, half because of the story behind the gossip. Customers wanted to support Chloe. Parents brought their kids to meet the little girl who made a CEO cry on stage. Jason started teaching Hannah how to budget her allowance. Every Friday became movie night. Every Sunday became Hannah's day, where she chose what they'd all do. One Sunday she asked, "Can we go see where Daddy grew up?" Jason hesitated, but then he said yes. They drove to the estate, Vivian's estate. Chloe wore jeans and a white blouse. Jason held her hand the entire way. Hannah sat in the back, kicking her feet and humming. Vivian opened the door in pearls and disbelief. "You brought them here?" she said sharply. Jason stepped forward. "She asked to know her family." Vivian glanced at Hannah, then at Chloe. "I suppose this is your way of embarrassing me further." "No," Chloe said softly. "This is our way of closing the book." Hannah walked up to Vivian. "You're my grandma?" Vivian blinked. "I suppose I am. Do you like cookies?" Vivian hesitated. "Why?" "Because my mom makes the best ones. You should try." Jason watched his mother freeze, then sigh, then step back. "Come in." Briefly, the visit lasted 30 minutes. No screaming, no tears, just stiff smiles, polite questions, awkward laughs. When they left, Jason kissed Chloe's temple. "I never thought that would happen." "She didn't melt," Chloe teased. "She didn't bite." Progress. Back home, they settled on the porch. Hannah colored hearts on the wood steps again. Jason held Chloe close. "Do you think we'll ever be normal?" She shook her head. "I don't want normal. I want honest." "You have that." She looked up at him. "And you?" Jason kissed her hand. "I have everything I lost, and everything I never knew I needed." The stars came out slowly. Hannah yawned. Chloe whispered, "Come inside, baby." Jason lifted her easily. Chloe turned to him before heading in. "This all started with you rejecting me." Jason smiled. "And ended with you choosing me." She smiled back. "No, it started with pain." but it ends with love. It had been 6 months since the media storm, the press conference, and the day Chloe let Jason stay. 6 months of slow trust, of building a routine, of healing. But some wounds didn't close quietly. Some echoed in dreams, in glances, in the quiet spaces between moments. Chloe was learning to forgive him, but she hadn't forgiven herself. That morning, she woke up before the sun. Jason was still asleep, his arm draped over her waist. Hannah had crept into their bed sometime during the night, her tiny fingers now curled into Chloe's hair. Peace lived in these early hours, but guilt still whispered. She slipped out quietly, pulling on her robe, and walked into the kitchen. The bakery order list was thick. She had clients to call, invoices to review, a new batch of sugar-free cupcakes to test. But all she could think about was the day she left that party 3 years ago. How small she felt. How loud the silence had been when Jason didn't defend her. She turned the faucet on and stared at her reflection in the window. "Why does it still hurt?" she whispered. Behind her, Jason's voice answered. "Because it mattered." She turned slowly. He stood in the doorway, holding Hannah's favorite stuffed elephant. "I didn't mean to eavesdrop," he said. "But I heard you." Chloe looked down. "I know you're doing better. I know you love us. I just haven't figured out how to let it all go." Jason nodded. "Then let me help." They spent that morning side by side at the bakery. Jason took orders, spilled flour, made kids laugh with terrible cookie jokes. Chloe taught him how to roll dough properly. Customers smiled at them like they'd always belonged to each other. But that night, the weight came back, and Jason did something he hadn't done before. He asked Chloe to write it down. Every hurt, every moment you wanted to scream, every time you felt alone, write it down. And when you're ready, read it to me. She stared at him. "Why?" "Because I didn't listen then, but I'll listen now." It took her 4 days, 4 nights of sitting with memories. She wrote about the first time Jason held her hand and the last time he let it go. She wrote about Hannah's birth, the silence, the screams, the cold bed, the missed calls that never came. She wrote about breastfeeding alone, singing lullabies to empty rooms, watching the sunrise while holding a baby who looked like a man who never called. She cried, then wiped her tears, then kept writing. On the 5th night, she handed Jason the notebook. "I don't want you to say anything after," she said. "Not right away." He nodded. She read every word. She didn't hold back. She told him about how she couldn't look at herself in mirrors for months, how even Hannah's smile sometimes made her ache, how she feared she'd become bitter, like the women she swore she'd never be. Jason sat with his hands in his lap, silent, listening. When she finished, she stood. He stood too. And then, he did not speak. He knelt, not to beg, to honor her pain. He took her hand and pressed it to his chest. And only then did she whisper, "I forgive you." But the next day, the world didn't shift. The sun still rose. The bills still came. But something in Chloe felt lighter. Jason didn't change overnight either, but his steps were slower, more present. He paid attention to what she didn't say. He learned when she needed space, when to make tea, when to sit close, when to let her cry without fixing. He was becoming the partner she didn't believe she'd ever have. Hannah's birthday came in early spring. They threw a small party at the bakery. Talia made cupcakes. Miles brought his nephew. Even Vivian sent a gift, a hand-stitched book of family recipes, no note attached. Chloe raised an eyebrow. Did she sew this? Jason laughed. Vivian doesn't even sew buttons. Still, it was something. Progress came in strange packages. That night, after everyone left, Chloe tucked Hannah in. Jason stood at the doorway, watching. "She's lucky," he said softly. Chloe smiled. "So, are we?" He walked over and placed something on the nightstand, a small velvet box. Chloe's eyes widened. "Jason, I know we're already building a life. I know rings don't fix the past, but I want you to have something that says, This isn't temporary. She opened the box. It was a simple band. No diamonds. No flash. Just a gold circle with Hannah's name engraved inside. Jason stepped back. You don't have to say anything. Chloe looked at him for a long moment. Then whispered, I'm not ready to wear it yet. Jason nodded. I didn't bring it for today. I brought it for when your heart says it's time. She closed the box. I love you, she said. I know, he replied. And I love you more now, because I earned it. They didn't announce anything. They didn't post photos. They just lived. Everyday things. Brushing teeth, grocery shopping, folding laundry together. Love grew there. And one night, without fanfare, Chloe reached into the drawer, pulled out the ring, and slid it on her finger. Jason didn't see her do it. But later, when she handed him coffee, his eyes dropped to her hand. He smiled, said nothing, just kissed her wrist. And for Chloe, that was enough. The next morning, Jason woke up first. He lay still, watching the soft rise and fall of Chloe's breath. Her fingers rested loosely around his shirt, her wedding ring glinting in the morning light. He still hadn't said a word about the ring, and she hadn't said anything either. But it sat there now, quietly confirming what they had become. He got up without waking her, tucked the blanket gently around her shoulders, and walked to the kitchen. Hannah was already there, legs swinging from a stool, munching dry cereal straight from the box. Morning, Daddy, he smiled. His chest still tightened at the word. Morning, Bean. Mommy still sleepy. Yeah, let's let her rest. How about pancakes? With blueberries? Of course. He flipped pancakes while Hannah told him a story about a dream where a cat ran for mayor. They laughed quietly, the kind of joy that lived in between normal moments. Jason didn't know peace could feel this. Regular. Later that day, he sat with Miles in a quiet corner of the bakery's back room, going over consultancy notes. Jason was still managing parts of his old business, but his schedule had changed, intentionally. I won't fly out as much, he had told Miles months ago. If they want me, they come here. Today they were discussing a logistics firm trying to merge. Do you want the deal? Miles asked. Jason shrugged. I want to be done before 3. Hannah's art showcase is tonight. Miles grinned. Fatherhood suits you. Jason looked away. It's terrifying. And sacred. There was a pause. Miles tapped his pen. You're doing good, he said. Jason nodded. Still doesn't erase how I started. No, Miles said, but it shows how you're finishing. That evening, the bakery was decorated with child-made paper art. Chloe had cleared space so the neighborhood kids could display their projects. Talia hung up a painted banner that read, Little Big Artists. Hannah's picture was of 3 people holding hands, standing under a rainbow. Jason smiled. That's us? She said the middle one is Mommy, Chloe said. Of course. The tall one's me. No, Chloe teased. That's her. You're the short one. He laughed. Fair. As guests filtered in, Chloe moved between parents and kids, smiling, adjusting art. Jason stayed close, not hovering, just present. One of the parents approached him. You Hannah's dad? Jason nodded. She talks about you all the time. Jason felt warmth rise in his throat. She tells everyone you used to be a knight who lost his horse and found your way back home. Jason blinked. That night, when he tucked her in, he asked, Where'd you hear that story? Hannah grinned sleepily. I made it up. He brushed her curls from her forehead. I like it. Because you did find your way back, right? He swallowed hard. I did, baby. I did. Weeks passed. The weather turned warm, and something in Chloe changed. It wasn't dramatic, not loud. But one afternoon, Jason found her in the kitchen singing. Singing. She hadn't done that in years, not even when baking. She swayed a little while, pouring sugar, tapping her fingers on the counter to the beat. Jason leaned on the doorframe. Good mood? She turned, smiling. I didn't even realize I was singing. I did. She paused, serious now. I think I'm okay. He stepped forward slowly. Really? I think I'm finally letting myself believe I'm safe. With you. With us. Jason didn't speak. He took her hand, kissed it, then pulled her into his chest and held her. That night, they made love gently, without the urgency of pain or apology. It was different, deep, whole. Afterward, she rested her head on his chest. I never thought I'd be loved like this, she whispered. Jason kissed her forehead. Neither did I. But healing was not a straight line. It never is. One Thursday, Jason was walking Hannah home from school when a black car pulled up beside them. Vivian. Hannah waved cheerfully. Grandma. Vivian got out, in heels far too tall for the sidewalk. I see you're still playing house, she said to Jason. He glanced at Hannah, then said nothing. I want to talk. Alone. No, Jason said firmly. Vivian's eyes narrowed. I can make things hard for you, Jason. You already did, he replied. We're done letting you. She stepped closer. I saw the article. The one with your bakery woman and child. Her name is Chloe, and she's not a headline. People are talking. Let them. Vivian lowered her voice. Do you really think she'll stay? Women like that always leave when the fantasy fades. Jason shook his head. She stayed when I was nothing but a coward. And if anyone's going to leave, it'll be me dragging you out of our lives. Vivian's lips tightened. You've changed. Thank God. He took Hannah's hand and walked away without another word. That night, he told Chloe everything. She listened, quiet, then said, Thank you for not hiding it. Jason nodded. I promised you I wouldn't. She's still in your head, though, Chloe said. Even now. I can see it. Jason rubbed his face. I'm trying. She touched his hand. Then try harder. The next week, Jason did something bold. He hosted a dinner. Talia, Miles, a few of Chloe's clients, and yes, he invited Vivian. She didn't show. But her assistant dropped off a card. I don't do casual dining with commoners. Jason read it aloud. Chloe rolled her eyes. You still want her approval? No, he said. I just wanted her to see she doesn't own my life anymore. Chloe stared at him. That's what forgiveness is, she said slowly. Not for her, for you. Jason nodded. That night, he burned the card in the backyard fire pit, and Hannah roasted marshmallows over the flames. 2 days later, Jason got a call from his old friend Elijah, a high-level investor. I heard you stepped back. Yeah, you happy? Jason looked over at Chloe, who was laughing in the garden with Hannah. I've never been more. Elijah chuckled. Then keep doing what you're doing. Don't let the ghosts win. Jason hung up and stared out the window. The ghosts were still there, but they were fading, slowly, because this time love wasn't about proving. It was about presence, and he wasn't going anywhere. The house was quiet. Jason stood in the kitchen, folding Hannah's drawings into her art folder for school. One was of a castle, another of a man holding a little girl on his shoulders, both of them laughing under stars. He smiled. He wasn't the man he used to be, and Hannah, in her innocent way, kept reminding him of who he was becoming. Chloe walked in with wet hair wrapped in a towel. She had just stepped out of the shower, wearing one of his oversized shirts. She poured herself coffee and stood silently for a moment, staring out the window. He walked up behind her, rested his hands gently on her hips, and pressed a kiss to her shoulder. You okay? He asked. She nodded. I'm just full, in a good way. He smiled, brushing her towel back to kiss the back of her neck. You're allowed to feel good now. I'm learning, she said. Still learning. Later that afternoon, they took Hannah to the park. Chloe brought a blanket and a few muffins from the bakery. Jason brought juice boxes and a Bluetooth speaker. They lay under a tree while Hannah ran ahead to the swings. Remember when this felt impossible? Chloe said. Jason nodded. I used to think people like us don't get second chances. We didn't, Chloe said. We built a new one. They sat in silence for a few seconds. Then Chloe asked the question she had been carrying quietly for months. Do you still hear her voice in your head? Your mom's? Jason nodded. Not as loud. But yeah, some days, what does she say? That I'm ruining everything. That this isn't the life I was meant for. Chloe turned to him. And what do you say back? Jason looked into her eyes. That I like who I am now. Back home that evening, Talia came over with her boyfriend and brought wine. They sat on the porch while Hannah colored beside them. Talia leaned over to Chloe. You look lighter. I feel it, Chloe whispered. Girl, I remember when you swore you'd never even speak to him again. I meant it back then. And now. Chloe glanced at Jason, who was spinning Hannah in a circle under the porch light. Her giggles filled the air. Now I know healing doesn't always mean going back. Sometimes it's allowing yourself to go forward, with open eyes. After Talia left, Chloe found Jason in their bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed. He looked up. You okay? I need to tell you something, she said. He stood, concerned. What is it? I forgive you, she said. His breath caught. I don't just mean I'm okay, or that I've moved on. I mean, I forgive you for everything, for not speaking up, for letting them mock me, for not coming after me when I left. I forgive you. Tears slipped down his cheeks. I don't deserve that, he said. No, but you've earned it. She touched his face. You earned it by staying, by listening, by showing up every single day. You can stop apologizing now, Jason. He pulled her into a long, quiet hug. Then he whispered, Thank you. I needed to hear that more than you know. Later that night, Jason walked into Hannah's room. She was already asleep, curled up with her stuffed bunny. He sat beside her bed and whispered, You're why I changed. You and your mom. You saved me. He brushed a kiss on her forehead, turned off the nightlight, and left the room. In the hallway, Chloe waited. Come to bed, she said softly. I'm right behind you. They lay in bed, facing each other. No words, no pressure, just breathing in the same rhythm, healing, together. If this chapter touched you, I want you to do something powerful right now. Type I. Choose healing over history in the comments if you believe we all deserve a chance to forgive, to grow, and to build something new from our broken pasts. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who needs it today. Every comment helps this story reach someone who might feel unseen, unloved, or unheard. Let them know healing is possible. And love? It can still win. The mornings were different now. Chloe used to wake up with her heart clenched, even when Hannah slept beside her, even when the bakery bills were paid. A tightness would sit in her chest like a warning, don't relax. Something could still go wrong. But now, she woke up to warmth. Jason's arm around her waist. Hannah's soft footsteps padding into the room before sunrise. The smell of coffee already brewing, because Jason had learned her rhythm, her patterns, her needs. It wasn't a mansion. Their house was modest. But to Chloe, it felt like breath. I made you toast, Jason said that morning, kissing her on the temple. Toast and jam? She asked. He nodded. And peanut butter, in case you change your mind halfway. She smirked. You're learning. He grinned. I want to pass the quiz. They sat at the kitchen table as Hannah ate her cereal and told them about a dream she had. Something about purple fish and flying shoes. Jason leaned in. You sure it wasn't because of the bedtime story I read? No, she giggled. Your story was boring. Chloe laughed so hard she almost choked on her tea. Jason feigned offense. Wow, you're gonna break your dad's heart. Hannah reached over and hugged him. No, I fixed it. The room went quiet for a second, emotion settling in. Chloe mouthed, She's right. Later that week, Chloe got an invitation in the mail. It was gold-trimmed and heavy, too formal for anything casual. Jason saw the look on her face. What is it? She handed it to him. Vivian Langford invites you to an afternoon tea in celebration of her granddaughter, Hannah Elise. Jason blinked. She's hosting something for Hannah? Chloe crossed her arms. I didn't even know she knew Hannah's full name. He frowned. I didn't either. There was no apology in the envelope. No note. Just a time, a date, a location, and the same entitlement Chloe remembered from years ago. "You think I should go?" she asked. "I think you should do whatever gives you peace," Jason said. She stared at the invite again. "I'll go." The day of the tea, Chloe dressed Hannah in a yellow sundress and matching sandals. She twisted her curls into 2 puffballs and packed extra snacks, just in case. Jason offered to go with them, but Chloe shook her head. "I want her to see me, alone, unapologetic." He nodded, proud. "You sure?" he asked one last time. Chloe kissed his cheek. "If I can birth a child on my own, I can handle tea with your mother." Vivian's house hadn't changed. Still perched on a hill like it was better than the town below. Still cold on the outside, sterile on the inside. Chloe walked in, holding Hannah's hand. Vivian greeted them in pearls and judgment. "Chloe, you look different." "I am," Chloe said. Vivian looked down at Hannah. "And you must be, well, yes, you're unmistakable." Hannah tilted her head. "Your daddy's mummy?" Vivian gave a tight smile. "That's right. You don't look like him." Chloe smothered a laugh behind her hand. The tea was stiff, staged. There were no friends, no real family, just a few socialites Vivian used to impress. Chloe stayed calm. Hannah stayed curious. At one point, Vivian leaned over. "She's smart," she said. "She's perfect," Chloe replied. Vivian sipped her tea. "You know, if you had come to me earlier," Chloe cut in. "I didn't need you. And I don't now." Vivian blinked. Chloe continued. "You didn't protect me back then. You humiliated me. And you raised a son who couldn't speak up when it mattered." Vivian sat in stunned silence. "But," Chloe added, "your son grew. He changed. And now he's the father I hoped he could be." She smiled sweetly. "So you can either be part of Hannah's life on our terms, or not at all." Vivian clenched her jaw but said nothing. Hannah climbed into Chloe's lap. "Can we go home now?" "Yes, baby." Jason waited on the porch when they got back. He stood up when he saw their car. "Well?" he asked. Chloe stepped out, Hannah in her arms. "I said what needed to be said," she told him, "and I didn't lose my peace." He exhaled. "I'm proud of you." She kissed his cheek. "Let's not talk about her anymore." "Deal." That night, Jason made dinner. Spaghetti, garlic bread and salad with way too many olives, because Hannah liked to steal them off everyone's plate. After dinner, they sat on the floor in the living room. Chloe read from Hannah's favorite picture book. Jason combed out Hannah's hair, carefully, slowly, whispering little jokes that made her giggle. When Hannah fell asleep on the rug, Jason lifted her gently and carried her to bed. Chloe followed, tucking in the blanket. Jason stood in the doorway, watching her. "I love seeing you like this," he said. Chloe turned. "Like what?" "Whole," he replied. "At peace." She smiled, walking back toward him. "I didn't think this was possible." He pulled her close. "You made it possible." She touched his chest, right where his heart beat steady. "Thank you for staying," she whispered. He kissed her forehead. "There's nowhere else I'd rather be." That night, they lay together with the windows open. A soft breeze carried the scent of night jasmine into the room. Jason stroked her back, his touch gentle, unhurried. Chloe rested her head on his chest. "This feels like home." He kissed the top of her head. "It is." No tension, no pretending, no wounds reopened. Just love. Real. Quiet. Present. Jason had stopped living like the man he once was. No more late nights at charity events he didn't care about. No more hosting parties filled with people he couldn't stand. No more chasing deals just to impress his board. He had spent years building an empire, and now he was learning how to build a bedtime routine. Hannah didn't care about business suits or black cards. She cared about bedtime stories and being pushed on the swings. And Chloe. She never wanted the empire. She wanted peace, honesty, and someone who stayed. That's who Jason was now. Not just a man with a past, but a man rewriting his future every day with them. One Saturday, Chloe took Hannah to the farmer's market. They wandered through the fruit stands while Jason grabbed pastries from their favorite vendor. Hannah pointed at a busker playing violin. "Can I dance, Mama?" Chloe nodded. "Go on." Hannah twirled and jumped, her yellow shoes tapping on the stone path, her curls bouncing. People clapped. Jason clapped too, joining them with 2 croissants in a paper bag. "She's fearless," he said. Chloe smiled. "She doesn't know what shame is yet." "That's beautiful." Jason leaned in. "You gave her that." Chloe looked at him. "And you gave her your face." They laughed softly, watching their daughter twirl under the morning sun. Later that day, Chloe was in the bakery's back office reviewing numbers when Jason knocked and stepped inside. "You got a minute?" he asked. She nodded. "What's up?" He handed her a piece of paper. "What's this?" "A lease transfer form," he said. "I'm giving you full ownership of this place. Your name only." Chloe stared at the paper. "Jason, I already run it." "I know. But legally, it's still under my name. That bakery deserves to be yours, fully." She hesitated. "Why now?" He walked closer. "Because I don't want you to ever feel like anything in your life depends on my last name." Chloe blinked, touched in a way she didn't expect. "You're not trying to buy forgiveness?" "No," he said. "I'm trying to show respect." Chloe looked at the paper again. "Thank you." Jason shrugged. "You've already earned it." That evening, after Hannah went to bed, Chloe stepped out onto the porch. Jason followed, handing her a cup of tea. They sat together, the silence soft between them. "I want to ask you something," Jason said. "Okay." He looked at her. "What would you have named her if you never met me?" Chloe raised an eyebrow. "You mean, if she hadn't had your face?" He nodded. Chloe thought for a moment. "Lena." "After my grandmother." He smiled. "Lena's beautiful, but I'm glad she's Hannah." "Me too." Jason leaned back, staring up at the sky. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I had defended you that night?" Chloe sipped her tea. "I used to. A lot. I used to imagine what it would have felt like to hear you say, 'She's with me, and I love her.' In front of everyone." "I should have said it," he whispered. "Yes," she agreed. "But if you had, I might not have walked away. I might have stayed, gotten pulled into your family's world, and I would have never found my strength." Jason turned to her. "Do you forgive me?" Chloe looked at him for a long time. "Yes." "Because you became someone worth forgiving." The next week, Talia came over for dinner. She was suspicious at first, watching Jason like a hawk as he set the table. "Wow," she said. "A man who cooks and doesn't vanish after dessert." Jason chuckled. "Still here?" "Mm-hmm." Chloe rolled her eyes. "Talia." "What?" Talia said, shrugging. "I'm protective." Jason raised his glass. "And I respect that." Talia gave a slow, approving nod. "Okay, he can stay." Hannah ran up and hugged her. "Auntie Talia." Talia scooped her up. "There's my girl." "Has Daddy been behaving?" Hannah giggled. "He burned the pancakes." Jason groaned. "She snitched so fast." They all laughed. The room felt full and warm. Later, when Talia and Chloe stood in the kitchen, Talia whispered, "He's changed. I can tell." Chloe nodded. "So can I?" Talia looked over at Jason and Hannah, playing with crayons at the table. "You happy?" she asked. Chloe thought about it, not in a fairy tale way, not in a everything is perfect now way, but in a deep, grounded way. "I'm not afraid anymore," she said. "That's something, right?" Talia hugged her. "That's everything." One night, Hannah had a nightmare. She screamed, crying out for her mama. Jason woke up first. He ran to her room and scooped her up, holding her close. Chloe followed, heart racing. Hannah clung to Jason's chest, sobbing. "I'm here," he whispered. "I'm here." He rocked her, whispering gently, brushing her hair back. Chloe watched him in the dim light, something shifting inside her. This wasn't guilt. This wasn't obligation. This was love. As Hannah drifted back to sleep, Jason tucked her in and sat by the bed. Chloe knelt beside him. "You're a good father." He looked at her, eyes soft. "I'm trying." "You are." They left the room quietly, returning to bed, but neither of them spoke for a while. Then Jason said, "I don't deserve this peace, but I'm grateful for it." Chloe whispered, "Deserve has nothing to do with love." He turned toward her. "Then I'll spend my life loving you right." She didn't reply, but she reached for his hand and didn't let go. Fall arrived with a soft chill in the air. Leaves turned amber and gold outside their window. Chloe found herself waking earlier just to enjoy the quiet, the stillness before Hannah's footsteps echoed down the hall. Jason had started bringing her tea in bed. He never said much when he did. He'd leave it on the nightstand, kiss her cheek, and say, "I've got breakfast." It was a small thing, but real and consistent. They didn't label what they were. They didn't rush into calling it together again. Chloe didn't want the pressure of perfection. She wanted truth, stability, presence. Jason gave her that now. One weekend, they drove out to a cabin a friend let them borrow. Hannah sat in the back seat, singing along to the radio. Jason drove with one hand on the wheel, the other resting near Chloe's knee. Not touching, just close. When they arrived, Hannah ran through the trees laughing. Jason built a fire. Chloe unpacked sandwiches. At night, they made s'mores. "Daddy's is on fire." Hannah shrieked, laughing as Jason blew on the flaming marshmallow. "I like it extra crispy," he said. Chloe laughed too. "You've always been dramatic." Jason winked. "That's how I got your attention." Later, they sat by the fire while Hannah slept inside. Jason turned to her. "Can I ask you something?" Chloe nodded. "Are we okay? You and me?" She took her time answering. "We're honest. That's better than okay." He exhaled. "That's enough for me." Then she leaned on his shoulder. "But we're getting there." The next day, Hannah got sick. Just a cold, but she had a fever. Jason stayed up through the night with her. He took turns holding the cool rag to her forehead. He made soup. He sat by the bed and hummed when she couldn't sleep. Chloe watched him, heart full and aching. "You're good at this," she whispered. "I had a terrible example," he said. "So I'm doing the opposite of what I saw." She kissed his forehead. "You're doing it right." Weeks passed. One night, Chloe came home from a late shift at the bakery. Jason had cleaned the kitchen, done laundry, and was now folding tiny clothes on the couch while watching a movie with Hannah. "Hey, Mama," Hannah said, running to her. Jason stood. "You look tired." "I am. Go shower. I'll handle bedtime." She nodded, kissed Hannah, then headed to the bathroom. When she returned, Jason was waiting in the bedroom. "I was thinking," he said slowly, "if you ever want help expanding the bakery, I'd like to invest." Chloe raised an eyebrow. "As a partner?" He smiled. "Silent partner. All yours. No strings." She studied him. "You don't want control?" "No. You already built something powerful. I just want to help you grow it." Chloe stepped closer. "You're really not the same man I met, are you?" He shook his head. "I was a boy pretending to be a man. Now I'm just trying to be the man my daughter believes I am." Chloe touched his face. "She believes in you." Jason whispered, "Do you?" She didn't answer. Instead, she kissed him. Slow, gentle, certain, not because she owed him, but because her heart finally stopped flinching. That winter, Chloe opened a second bakery location. Jason helped secure the property but stayed out of the spotlight. Talia ran the original shop, while Chloe trained new staff. Business was good. Life was calm. One snowy evening, Jason came home early with flowers in his hand and a soft look in his eyes. Chloe was frosting cupcakes at the counter. He stood there, quiet for a moment, then said, "I want to marry you." She paused, holding the piping bag mid-squeeze. "Excuse me?" "I'm not asking yet," he added quickly. "Not until you're ready." "But I needed to say it." Chloe laughed. "Jason, no pressure," he said. just truth. She shook her head. You really changed. He smiled. You did that to me. 6 months later, they stood in a garden with wildflowers all around. No crowd, no press. Just Talia, Miles, Hannah, and 2 witnesses. Chloe wore a simple cream dress. Jason wore a navy suit. Hannah stood between them holding both their hands. Jason's voice cracked when he said his vows. I loved you before I knew how to love myself. You gave me a second chance by giving me a daughter. I'll never waste it again. Chloe's hands trembled. You broke me, but you didn't leave me there. You came back, and you stayed. I forgive you, and I choose you. Talia cried openly. Miles smiled proudly. When they kissed, Hannah squealed, "Ew," and hugged their legs. That night, back home, after the celebration, Chloe and Jason sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket. He kissed her hand like he had the first time they met. I still remember the way you looked when I walked into that party, he said. You made everything else disappear. And yet, you disappeared, she replied, smiling. He looked down. I'll regret that forever. She tilted his chin up. Then don't waste forever. Be here. Fully, I'm here, he said. I see that now. The story didn't end with a wedding. It began again, with school pickups, bedtime songs, slow mornings, and arguments about who left the dishes. But it was real, and Chloe had learned that real was enough. The first time Hannah called Jason Dad, it wasn't planned. She had scraped her knee while racing through the bakery's back garden. Tears spilled fast. Chloe was inside restocking shelves, unaware of the fall. Jason had been sweeping near the back exit when he saw her stumble. He rushed over, dropped to one knee, and cupped her tiny face. It's okay, he whispered, checking her knee. A shallow graze. No blood. But Hannah sniffled, big tears streaking down her cheeks. She didn't say, Jason. She didn't cry, Mama. She reached for him, small arms open wide, and said it. Daddy. Jason froze. The world paused. He didn't know if Chloe had heard. He didn't care. He picked her up and held her against his chest, swallowing the lump in his throat. He had waited nearly 4 years to hear that word. He never expected it to feel like both a miracle and a weight. Later that evening, he told Chloe. She stood at the sink, rinsing out Hannah's lunchbox. She didn't turn around, just nodded. She's been trying to figure out what to call you, she said quietly. I didn't push her either way. I know. Are you okay with it? Jason took a breath. It's the most important name I've ever earned. Chloe turned then. Her eyes searched his face, calm and thoughtful. She trusts you now. That means everything. I trust her too, Jason replied. She's the only one who's ever seen all of me and still smiled. They stood in silence for a while, water running, hearts full. Jason didn't try to become a perfect father. He knew better. He didn't overcompensate or make grand gestures. He didn't buy expensive toys or fill her days with trips. Instead, he did the small things. He braided her hair in the morning, messily and with too many rubber bands, but she loved it. He walked her to school, even on rainy days, umbrella held above her like she was royalty. He attended her Saturday dance lessons and clapped louder than any other parent, even when she tripped during her spin. He packed her snacks with napkins that had hand-drawn smiley faces. He read her favorite book over and over, even though he hated the ending. That's what made Hannah trust him. The quiet consistency, the way he never made her feel like a task. He showed up, and when he was there, he wasn't on his phone. He wasn't half listening. He wasn't distracted. He was all in. Chloe watched them from a distance sometimes, from the kitchen window, from across the park, from the bakery counter. Every time she saw them together, it stitched a piece of her heart back together. She had survived heartbreak, rejection, loneliness. But this was peace. One Thursday morning, Jason walked into the bakery with Hannah before school. She had chocolate on her nose and a sticker on her forehead. Guess what? She said proudly. What? Chloe asked, wiping flour off her hands. We're bringing parents to class next week. You have to talk about your jobs and what you love the most. Chloe smiled. You want me to come? Of course, Mama. But Daddy too. Jason looked up. You sure? Hannah rolled her eyes. Duh. Chloe chuckled. All right, we'll both come. Jason's voice softened. What do you want us to say, sweetie? Just tell them about baking, and emails, and love stuff. Chloe raised an eyebrow. Love stuff? Yeah, like how you met, and how you're not married but still love each other. Jason glanced at Chloe, whose cheeks turned pink. Okay, Chloe said quickly. Maybe not all the love stuff. Hannah shrugged. Whatever. But you're both coming. Jason smiled. We wouldn't miss it. That night, Chloe lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Jason had already fallen asleep beside her, his hand resting on her hip under the covers. She whispered. You heard her. He stirred. Hmm? She called you Daddy again. A pause. Yeah, he murmured. I heard. Chloe turned to face him. I didn't think I'd ever see her say that. Or say it and mean it. Jason's eyes opened. She means it. I'll never let her down again. Chloe reached over and brushed his hair back. You're a good father. His voice cracked. Thank you. You're a good man too. He didn't reply. He just kissed her palm and held it against his cheek. On Parents' Day, Jason wore a blazer and jeans. Chloe wore her flour-dusted apron over a neat black dress. They both looked like love without saying the word. Inside the kindergarten classroom, Hannah beamed with pride. This is my mommy, she said loudly, and she makes the best muffins in the world. Laughter. And this is my daddy. He used to be a big boss, but now he works less so he can be with me. More laughter. Jason cleared his throat. That's mostly true. They each shared what they did. Chloe spoke about baking, about starting her own business with a baby on her hip. Jason spoke about stepping back from his company, about learning that time is the most valuable thing you can ever give a child. The teacher asked a final question. What's the hardest part about being a parent? Chloe looked at Jason. He answered softly. Trying to be the person your child already thinks you are. The room fell silent. Even the teacher blinked back tears. After class, Chloe and Jason walked home holding Hannah's hands, one on each side. She swung between them, singing something off-key and happy. Jason turned to Chloe and whispered, Thank you for letting me be her dad. Chloe squeezed his hand. She made the choice. Not me. Jason looked ahead. But you didn't stop her. Chloe didn't reply. She just smiled. At home, they baked together. Hannah sat on the counter, licking the spoon. Jason rolled dough with too much flour. Chloe laughed at them both. Flour dusted the air like snow. They didn't have music playing. They didn't need it. The kitchen was already filled with love. Jason carried the grocery bags in one hand and Hannah's tiny backpack in the other. Chloe unlocked the door and pushed it open, letting in the soft afternoon light that warmed their small but peaceful living room. Smells like cinnamon, Jason said, setting the bags on the counter. That's because I baked, Chloe replied with a tired but genuine smile. Hannah kicked off her shoes and darted to her crayons, picking up a page she'd started earlier that morning. Life had settled into a rhythm, quiet, steady, and safe. Chloe didn't know how long it would last, but for now, she welcomed the silence. Jason stepped behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. You've been quiet today. I'm okay, she murmured, leaning back into him. Just thinking. He pressed a light kiss to her cheek. About anything I should worry about. She shook her head. No. About everything I didn't think I'd ever get to have. Dinner was simple. Rice, grilled chicken, and a side of steamed vegetables. They sat around the small kitchen table, Jason at one end, Chloe at the other, Hannah in between, kicking her feet and humming as she ate. Jason told a funny story about the cashier at the store calling him Mr. Crumbs because of the bakery logo on his shirt. Chloe laughed. Genuinely. The sound surprised her. You're good at this, she said, as they washed dishes side by side. At what? Being here. Being normal. Jason chuckled. I'm trying to earn every second. After dinner, Chloe brought out a worn board game they hadn't played in months. Jason and Hannah battled over the colored tokens while Chloe watched, her legs curled under her on the couch. The evening passed slowly, filled with laughter, groans of defeat, and Hannah's victorious dance when she won. Later that night, when Hannah was fast asleep in her room, Chloe and Jason sat on the porch under the dim glow of the outside light. She held a cup of tea between her palms, the warmth grounding her. "She drew another picture of you today," Chloe said. Jason turned his head toward her. "Yeah? She gave you a cape in this one." He smiled. "I don't deserve that." "She thinks you do." They sat in silence for a while. A car passed in the distance. A dog barked. Then Jason said quietly, "Sometimes I think about that night, the party, my mom, the way I stood there and said nothing." Chloe didn't move. She let him speak. "I've gone over it 100 times. The moment I saw your face, I should have said something. Should have held your hand tighter. But you didn't," she replied. "And I hated you for that. I hated myself too." She turned to him. "Do you still?" "Some days, yes." She reached out and touched his hand. "I believe you've changed. Not for me. For her. For Hannah." "That means something." Jason swallowed hard. "I never stopped loving you, Chloe. Even when I acted like a coward." Chloe stared ahead. "I used to imagine you showing up again, apologizing, asking to be a father. I thought I'd slam the door in your face. Why didn't you? Because Hannah deserves more, and because part of me wanted to believe people could grow." Jason moved closer, their arms touching. "Do you think I've grown?" Chloe nodded slowly. "Yes, but trust isn't a light switch. It takes time." "I'll wait," he said. "You already are." She leaned her head on his shoulder. For the first time in years, there was no lingering resentment, just the gentle ache of healing. At the weekend fair, Jason surprised Hannah by winning a giant stuffed elephant. Her giggles echoed through the booths as she ran to show Chloe, hugging the toy tightly. They sat for a family photo near the end of the day. Jason knelt beside Hannah. Chloe stood behind them, her arms draped over their shoulders. The sun dipped low behind them, casting golden light across their faces. When the photographer showed them the picture, Chloe blinked fast. "She still has your face," she whispered. Jason turned to her. "She has your fire, and your eyes, and your heart," he said gently. Back at home, Hannah fell asleep early, exhausted from the fair. Jason tucked her in while Chloe leaned against the doorway, watching. He kissed Hannah's forehead and whispered, "Good night, my brave girl." Later that night, on the couch, Jason stared up at the ceiling. "Do you ever think about more? More what?" Chloe asked. "More life. A bigger home. Another child." Chloe looked at him for a long moment. "I used to dream of a lot of things, but now I just want peace." Jason nodded. "Then I'll help you keep it." She smiled. "That's all I need." The room fell quiet again. Not empty, just full of the kind of calm that once felt impossible. The morning light filtered in through the half-drawn curtains. Chloe stirred first, waking to the soft hum of the ceiling fan and the faint smell of toast. She blinked slowly, registering the calm of a house where nothing urgent waited. It was Saturday, no rush, no customers calling, no orders piling up, just home. She stretched and sat up, running a hand through her braids. Hannah's laughter echoed from the kitchen. Chloe padded in barefoot to find Jason standing at the stove, wearing Hannah's pink apron, 3 sizes too small, with flour on his cheek. "You're a mess," Chloe smiled, leaning against the wall. "I'm a chef," he replied proudly. Hannah said, "I'm not allowed to touch the oven unless I dress the part." Hannah sat on the counter with a butter knife in her hand, carefully cutting strawberries into crooked pieces. "We're making pancakes. Fancy ones." Chloe kissed her daughter's head. "Of course you are." They ate breakfast at the table, sunlight pouring in through the windows. Hannah dipped her pancake in syrup, licked her fingers, and declared it the best breakfast ever. Chloe and Jason exchanged a look that didn't need words. This was joy, simple and loud. After cleaning up, they all changed and headed out. The park was quiet that morning, scattered with families and couples walking dogs. Chloe sat on the bench while Hannah ran ahead, chasing her shadow. Jason joined her. "I've been thinking," Chloe gave him a side glance. "About what?" "About what I owe you." "You don't owe me anything." "I do," he said. "Not for Hannah. You gave her everything without asking for a thing in return. But I left you to carry the weight alone." Chloe exhaled. "I won't pretend it was easy. I broke down some nights. I wondered how I'd pay rent, buy diapers. But I had Talia. I had the bakery. And I had Hannah's smile." Jason's voice softened. "You had everything except support from the person who should have stood beside you." She nodded. "But I also had peace. Once I let go of the hope you'd come back, I stopped waiting. I started living." "I'm glad you did," he said, "because now I get to see the woman you've become, and I don't want to miss another version of you." That evening, they visited Talia's apartment. She opened the door with a wide grin and a towel wrapped around her head. "Look who remembered I exist," she teased, pulling Chloe in for a hug. "And you," she added, looking at Jason, "still walking around here like a Hallmark movie." Jason laughed. "Nice to see you too, Talia." They sat on the couch while Hannah played with Talia's dog in the hallway. "So, how's real life?" Talia asked. Chloe smiled. "It's quiet, but good. She trusts me again," Jason said. "At least a little." Talia raised an eyebrow. "She doesn't hand out trust like candy. If she's letting you in, don't screw it up." "I won't," he said without hesitation. Talia sipped her drink. "You know, I used to dream of seeing Chloe married to someone who treated her like treasure." Chloe glanced at her. "Talia, no, let me say it. I was scared you'd waste your best years trying to fix someone who didn't deserve you. But if he's doing the work, then I'll shut up." "For now," Jason smiled. "Thank you." Back home, as Hannah slept, Chloe folded laundry while Jason helped. He held up a small pink sock. "She wore this on her first day of daycare," Chloe said. He nodded. "You kept everything?" "Most things," she admitted. "It was all I had of her early years. Every outfit, every scribble, every photo." Jason sat beside her. "Can I see them?" Chloe hesitated, then stood and retrieved a box from the closet. She opened it slowly, revealing tiny shoes, baby teethers, crayon drawings, and photos. Jason picked up one picture, Hannah at 6 months, toothless, with a wide grin and flour on her forehead. "She looks like you here." Everyone said that, until her eyes changed. They looked through each memory, sitting close, knees touching. Chloe felt a warmth settle between them, familiar but new. The next day, Jason surprised her again. He had framed some of Hannah's best drawings and hung them in the hallway like gallery pieces. "She's an artist," he said. "She deserves her own wall." Chloe laughed. "You're ridiculous. You love it." "I do." A week later, Jason came home early. He found Chloe in the backyard, pulling weeds from the small garden she'd planted. "I've been thinking," he said again. She looked up. "That always scares me." He knelt beside her. "I don't want to just be nearby anymore. I want us to be together, all of us, officially." Chloe's hands froze in the dirt. "Married?" she whispered. "If you'll have me." She stood slowly, wiping her hands. "You're asking me now. I know it's not fancy. No candles, no big moment. But I've waited 3 years too long already." Chloe looked him in the eye. "I don't want a ring to fix what we had. I want to know you'll stay when it's hard." "I'll stay, even if I get angry, even if I cry, even if I need space." He nodded. "I'll stay through all of it." She didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached for his hand. Then yes, but not for show. For real. Jason's grip tightened. For real. The first time Hannah called him Daddy, Jason was holding her pink backpack outside the bakery, waiting for Chloe to finish closing. She ran toward him after school, arms wide, curls bouncing, eyes bright. She shouted it like she'd always known. Not Jason, not Mr. Jason, just Daddy. He froze. Chloe, watching from behind the window, covered her mouth and didn't stop the tear that slipped past her cheek. It wasn't planned. It wasn't coached. It came from Hannah's own heart, and that meant everything. Jason had tried to be patient. He didn't ask for labels. He showed up. He swept floors at the bakery when Chloe was overwhelmed. He walked Hannah to school. He read bedtime stories on the nights Chloe let him stay longer. He never once complained. Chloe still kept the key to her heart guarded, but it was clear she wasn't locking him out anymore. She watched him with new eyes. Not naive, not desperate, just observant, careful, but also hopeful. And Jason? He was trying in a way he never had before. His life used to revolve around schedules, meetings, and his mother's voice echoing through his every decision. But now, his world fit inside that tiny bakery and a girl who loved red crayons and chocolate milk. Hannah's laughter healed parts of him he didn't know were wounded. He found himself smiling more, even on bad days. He didn't hide when he was tired or afraid. He didn't run when things got complicated. And Chloe noticed. She saw it in the way he listened now, in the way he looked at Hannah like she was his whole world, in the way he looked at Chloe like she was his only peace. Still, there were moments of hesitation. At night, after Hannah slept, Chloe would lie awake and ask herself if she could ever really trust him again. Love wasn't a switch. It wasn't easy. But when Jason laughed with Hannah, or when he brought Chloe her favorite, tea without asking, it was hard to ignore what was blooming again. One Saturday morning, Jason brought breakfast to the apartment. Waffles, fruit, extra syrup for Hannah. Chloe opened the door in a robe, hair in a scarf, eyes still swollen from sleep. "You're early," she said. "Traffic was light, and I missed you both." Chloe blinked, stepping aside to let him in. "You didn't have to do all this." "I know. I wanted to." They sat on the floor with Hannah between them, cartoons playing low on the TV. Jason fed her pieces of waffle while Chloe sipped tea, and for a second, everything felt normal, like they had always been a family. Then Hannah blurted, "Is Daddy going to sleep here tonight?" Jason looked at Chloe. She raised an eyebrow. He cleared his throat. "Only if Mummy says it's okay." Chloe didn't answer. She just reached over and wiped syrup from Hannah's chin. Later that day, Chloe and Jason took Hannah to the park. She chased pigeons while they sat on a bench, watching her. Jason leaned forward, elbows on knees. "She's perfect." "She is." He hesitated, then turned to Chloe. "I'm scared sometimes." She glanced at him. Of what? Of messing up again, of not being enough, of being like... He didn't say his mother's name. "You're not her," Chloe said. "You never were. I listened to her for too long." "You did. I don't want to be that man anymore." Chloe nodded slowly. "Then don't be..." The wind rustled through the trees. Hannah waved at a stranger's dog. Jason turned fully to Chloe. "You don't have to answer now, or even soon. But I want to marry you, when you're ready, when you believe I mean it." Chloe's eyes widened. She didn't speak. He smiled gently. No ring, no speech, just truth. She looked away, blinking fast. "You're serious?" "I love you, Chloe. I loved you then, and I love you more now. I don't want to build a new life without you." Chloe didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She took a breath and rested her head lightly on his shoulder. For now, that was enough. The park proposal, or whatever it was, hung between them like something sacred and fragile. Chloe didn't speak of it again for days. But she didn't push Jason away either. She let him in, quietly. Little things. Her laughter came easier. Her silences weren't made of ice anymore. When he stayed over for dinner, she didn't ask him to leave too quickly. When Hannah drew Mummy and Daddy and me with crayons, Chloe didn't correct her. Jason noticed it all. One Thursday evening, Chloe was closing the bakery alone. Jason usually came to help, but a client meeting had run late. She wiped down the counters, humming softly to a Nina Simone track on the radio. The air was warm with sugar and flour, the scent of vanilla clinging to her apron. She didn't hear the bell until it rang again. Jason stepped in, holding a small box. "I know I said no ring yet," he said. Chloe folded her arms, suspicious. "And now?" He smiled. "Still no ring. But I saw this and thought of you." He opened the box. Inside was a gold pendant, simple but beautiful. A small heart carved with Hannah's initials on one side and the date of her birth on the back. Chloe swallowed. "You had this made?" "Custom. The jeweler said it was old-fashioned. I said perfect." She held it gently, her fingers trembling. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I want you to know. No matter how slow you need to move, I'm here." Chloe looked up. "I'm scared." "I know. I believed in you before. And you broke it. I'll hold that truth as long as you need. I'm not here to erase the past. I'm here to earn your future." She didn't cry. She just nodded and whispered, "Thank you." Jason left that night with a kiss on the cheek, nothing more. Chloe wore the pendant to bed. Weeks passed. Then months. Jason became part of their rhythm. He helped Hannah learn to ride a bike. He fixed the leaky faucet in the bathroom. He stayed when Chloe had a flu and took care of everything like it was second nature. He brought flowers without a reason. Grocery shopped with Hannah and let her choose weird snacks. He never forced his way in. He simply stayed until staying felt like home. But Chloe's heart wasn't made of stone. It was a garden, and gardens bloom again when they're loved well. One late spring evening, Hannah had a dance recital. She wore a yellow tutu and sparkly shoes. Chloe braided her hair while Jason adjusted the tiny bow around her waist. "You nervous?" he asked Hannah. "Nope, I'm the sun today." Chloe smiled. "Yes, you are." They sat together in the crowded school hall, watching her shine on stage. Jason recorded everything, grinning like the proudest man alive. Afterward, Hannah ran to them, beaming. "I didn't fall." Jason lifted her up and kissed her cheek. "You were magic." Chloe took the photo, all three of them, smiling like a family that had never broken. That night, Chloe couldn't sleep. She lay awake in her room, staring at the pendant on her nightstand. Everything in her life had shifted, not suddenly, but piece by piece, in the quiet. She remembered crying alone during pregnancy, remembered labor pains with only Talia by her side, remembered holding Hannah the first time, terrified but grateful. And now, Jason was back, not as a visitor, but as someone rebuilding from the ground up. He had changed, not in big speeches, but in soft gestures, in consistency, in how he loved Hannah, in how he no longer cared what Vivian thought. He had even gone low contact with his mother, only calls, no visits. Chloe didn't ask him to. He chose it. The next day, she called Talia. "Tell me I'm not crazy." Talia, as blunt as ever, said, "You're not. But you better be sure before you let that man in your bed." Chloe laughed. "I'm not thinking about that. Liar." "But, okay. I'm scared, Talia." "You should be. Love is scary. But so is letting a good man walk away for the second time." Chloe went quiet. Talia added, "Just don't let fear raise your daughter. Let love do it." That night, Chloe invited Jason to dinner. After Hannah slept, they cleaned up together in silence. Then, Chloe stood still in the kitchen and said, "I'm not saying yes to anything yet, but I don't want to say no either." Jason didn't speak. He waited. She reached for his hand. "Stay. Just stay." And he did. They sat on the couch, her legs folded beneath her, his arm behind her shoulders. No rush, no pressure, just presence. When she leaned into him, he didn't move. When she whispered, "I missed you," he closed his eyes. When she kissed him, slow and quiet, he kissed her back like a man who had waited years for permission. It wasn't wild or rushed. It was deep and healing. When Chloe fell asleep with her head on his chest, Jason watched her breathe and finally let himself believe this was love. Real, earned, and home. The quiet became their rhythm. Jason didn't rush her. He didn't bring up the proposal again. Chloe didn't dodge the memory of it either. It was there, tucked between their every shared glance, every lingering silence, every small kindness. But they didn't force it. They just lived. Their days became gentle routines. Mornings started with Hannah's laughter, her feet running down the hallway, climbing into their laps before they were fully awake. Evenings ended with soft music in the kitchen, the smell of warm pastries, and the low hum of Jason humming something only Hannah seemed to understand. Chloe noticed how Jason moved differently now. He used to carry tension like armor, always alert, always braced, but now he let himself laugh easily. He bent to tie Hannah's shoes with patience. He washed dishes without being asked. He'd sneak flour onto Chloe's nose when they baked, just to make her smile. At the bakery, customers now greeted him like he belonged. "That's the boss's man," someone said one afternoon, and Jason didn't flinch. He smiled and nodded, like it was the only title that mattered. But peace wasn't always easy to hold. One afternoon, Chloe opened the mailbox and found a sleek envelope with silver lettering. Vivian's signature crest was embossed on the flap. She opened it slowly. Inside was an invitation, an exclusive charity gala, black tie, the kind of event Jason used to attend with Celeste on his arm, back when Chloe was just a baker to them. Chloe stared at it, fingers tightening. Jason found her in the kitchen that evening, staring at the invite. "She wants to be seen," Chloe said. "That's all this is. She doesn't run my life anymore. She used to—" Jason stepped closer. "You don't have to come." Chloe looked up. "Do you want me to?" "I want you there, only if you want to be." Chloe held his gaze. "If I go, it won't be for her. It won't be for your past life. It'll be for me. Because I don't want to feel small in any room again." Jason's eyes softened. "Then we'll walk in together." That night, they sat at the kitchen table after Hannah had fallen asleep. Chloe spread the invitation between them. "I've avoided her since the day she humiliated me." "I know. I'm not afraid of her anymore. You never should have had to be." Chloe traced her finger across the silver trim of the card. "I'll go," she said. "But not for her. Not to prove anything, just to remind myself of who I've become." Jason nodded. "And I'll be beside you." They didn't speak of it again until the night arrived. Chloe stood in front of the mirror in a deep green dress that hugged her softly, her curls pinned up with gold clips. Jason wore a dark tailored suit, no tie, collar open. His eyes never left her reflection. "You've always looked like this to me," he said quietly. "Like what?" "Like someone impossible to forget." Chloe turned, meeting his eyes. "Let's go." They walked into the ballroom together. Heads turned, eyes followed. Vivian was near the center of the room, surrounded by people who only laughed when it was politically smart. Her lips tightened when she saw Chloe. Jason held Chloe's hand. Vivian approached. "You came?" "I did," Chloe said evenly. "I wasn't sure you'd feel comfortable here." "I didn't come to feel comfortable," Chloe replied. "I came because I belong wherever I choose." Jason didn't speak. He stood beside Chloe like a steady wall. Unshaken, Vivian's smile faded. "Jason, may I speak to you privately?" "No," he said. "Anything you have to say it here." Vivian glanced around at the staring faces. Then she leaned in, voice cold. "Do you think anyone in this room takes you seriously with her beside you?" Jason smiled. "She's the only reason I take myself seriously." Vivian's face hardened. Chloe didn't flinch. "Have a nice evening, Vivian." They walked away before she could respond. They didn't stay long enough to be seen, long enough to show they weren't hiding. Then they slipped out early, walking back to the car in silence. Jason opened the door for her, then walked around to the driver's side. As they pulled onto the street, Chloe looked out the window. "I thought it would feel like victory," she said. "But it doesn't." "What does it feel like?" "Freedom." Jason reached for her hand. "That's better." At home, Hannah was asleep, curled on the couch next to Talia, who had stayed over to babysit. Talia looked up as they entered. Well, well. You clean up nice. Chloe grinned. It's good to have you here. Jason bent and kissed Hannah's forehead. She stirred, eyes fluttering open. Hi, Daddy, she whispered. Jason lifted her gently into his arms. Hi, baby. Chloe watched them and realized this was what she had built. Not revenge, not proof, just peace, a home, a choice. She looked at Talia. You staying the night? Talia yawned. If I sit down again, I might never get back up. Then stay, Chloe said. We'll make pancakes in the morning. Talia winked. Only if they're the blueberry kind. Jason chuckled from the hallway. Got it covered. As Chloe locked the door behind her, she took a deep breath. Vivian didn't win. Her voice no longer echoed in their lives. This was their life now. Soft, quiet, and chosen. And Chloe? She was finally proud of every step that led her here. Jason didn't knock. He stood at the door, holding a small pink backpack with stickers on it. Chloe opened it, already dressed for work. Hannah behind her brushing her teeth. You forgot this yesterday, he said. Chloe blinked. You came all the way here for a backpack? Jason smiled a little. She cried over it. I figured it was worth the trip. Hannah ran out, grabbing the bag from him. My pinky pack. Jason bent slightly. You're welcome. Chloe watched the exchange, emotions stirring quietly. We were just about to walk to school. I'll come too, he said. They walked the few blocks in silence, Hannah skipping ahead. Jason matched Chloe's pace. Thanks for not turning me away, he said. I wanted to. I wouldn't blame you. They reached the gate. Hannah ran inside, waving. Jason and Chloe stood there. Do you want to grab coffee? He asked. I have work. I'll walk you to the bakery. Chloe hesitated, then nodded. The walk was quiet again, but comfortable. At the bakery, she unlocked the door. Jason looked around. Still smells like home. Chloe glanced at him. You think you can walk back in and everything resets? No. I think I'll keep walking in until it makes sense again. She didn't respond. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded letter. It's for Hannah. When she's older. Chloe took it slowly. What's in it? Everything I never said, everything I should have said. She placed it in her apron pocket. Thank you. Jason stepped back. I'll go. You always do. That made him pause. He nodded, then left. Chloe stood at the window, watching him disappear down the street. Talia arrived minutes later. You look like you've seen a ghost, she said. Chloe handed her the letter. He wrote something for Hannah. Talia narrowed her eyes. You okay? Chloe nodded. I don't know what to do with all this. Then don't do anything. Let time handle it. The bakery filled with the smell of sugar and cinnamon. Customers trickled in. Later that night, Jason sat in his apartment. On the table was a framed photo of Hannah he took with Chloe's permission. She was smiling, holding a cupcake. He picked up his phone. No messages. He didn't text. He waited. The next weekend, Chloe and Hannah were at the park. Hannah climbed a low set of monkey bars. Jason appeared again, this time holding a picnic basket. Chloe arched a brow. We're not doing this. I brought sandwiches. I don't want a picnic. But Hannah might. Hannah ran up. Are you staying? Jason knelt. Only if your mama says yes. Chloe looked at her daughter's eyes, then back at Jason. 1 hour. They sat under a tree. Jason handed out food, shared a juice box, listened to Hannah's stories. Chloe stayed quiet most of the time, but she was watching, measuring. Afterward, Jason packed everything up. I don't want to intrude, he said. Chloe nodded. You did okay today. I'll take that. They walked together again, Hannah in between, holding both their hands. At the door, Chloe hesitated. You want to come in for a bit? Jason looked surprised. Sure. They sat on the couch. Hannah turned on a cartoon. Jason stayed quiet, letting the moment speak. Chloe finally said, If you disappear again. I won't, because next time she'll notice. I know. Chloe glanced at him. She likes you. I like her too. They didn't say anything else for a while. And then, Chloe said softly, you can come back tomorrow. Same time. Jason smiled. Thank you. Hannah was 5 now, and every morning felt like a soft song in Chloe's chest. The girl ran barefoot through the hallway, curls bouncing, holding her favorite plush bunny by the ear. Jason sat at the dining table, dressed in a white t-shirt and grey lounge pants, sipping from a blue ceramic mug Chloe had made years ago when she first opened the bakery. It had a chipped handle, but he wouldn't let her replace it. Said it reminded him that broken things could still hold warmth. Mama, guess what? Hannah burst into the kitchen, her feet thumping the tiles like a drumbeat of joy. What, baby? Chloe wiped her hands on a kitchen towel, crouching to eye level. I saw a rainbow in the bathroom mirror. Jason chuckled softly. Maybe it was the light catching your eyes. Happens sometimes when the sun hits just right. Chloe kissed her daughter's forehead. Or maybe it means today's going to be magic. And in many ways, it was. Their life had settled into something Chloe once thought she'd never have. Steady, full, safe. Jason's apartment had been sold, and he'd moved fully into the house. He wasn't just showing up anymore. He was part of the rhythm, picking up groceries, brushing Hannah's hair on school mornings, folding laundry while singing old 90-second songs with her in the background. He wasn't perfect, but he was present. And that mattered more. One Saturday morning, Chloe stood by the window with a cup of ginger tea. Outside, Jason and Hannah were building something that looked like a wobbly spaceship made out of cardboard boxes and duct tape. Hannah was laughing loud and deep, the kind of laugh that reached Chloe's bones and told her that maybe, just maybe, all the hard roads had led here for a reason. She thought back to that first night on the park bench when she'd considered sleeping at the bus stop because she was too ashamed to go home. Back when Hannah was just a flutter in her belly and Jason's silence was still ringing in her ears. Now that man was outside, balancing a cardboard wing on his head like it was a crown, just to make their daughter laugh. Chloe pressed her palm against the cool window pane and whispered, "Thank you." That afternoon, Talia came over with 3 small bags of groceries and a bigger bag of drama. "Girl, I just saw Vivian on 9th, she said, pulling off her sunglasses. Chloe blinked. Okay. She was walking into some country club with a man who was definitely not her husband, or even close to his age. Jason walked in from the backyard, slightly sweaty, smiling. "Hey, Talia." "Jason, your mom's out here being scandalous," Talia said without skipping a beat. He froze mid-step. "What?" Chloe waved a hand. "Ignore her." Jason didn't. He set the box he was carrying on the table and looked Talia in the eye. "What did you see?" "Nothing concrete, just—" She didn't look guilty. She looked free, like she'd shed a skin. Jason leaned back against the counter, rubbing his jaw. "She's not the same woman I knew growing up. But maybe she never was. Maybe I was just too afraid to look." Talia nodded. "Well, I'm just saying. People change. Even the coldest ones." Chloe glanced between them. "You're not thinking of reaching out, are you?" Jason didn't answer immediately. He looked toward the hallway where Hannah had disappeared with her bunny. "She asked about my mom yesterday, said, 'Why doesn't Grandma come to my birthday parties?' I didn't have an answer." Talia sighed and grabbed a banana from the fruit bowl. "Don't go chasing ghosts, Jay. Some doors should stay closed." But Jason was already staring through the wall like he could see something no one else could. That evening, after Hannah had gone to bed and Talia had left, Jason sat beside Chloe on the living room couch. The house was dim, lit only by the lamp on the side table and the warm hum of the television playing a nature documentary no one was really watching. "She hurt you," Chloe said gently. "She did," Jason replied. "But I also let her shape me. I let her voice drown out my own." Chloe reached for his hand. "And now? I want to make peace with the parts of me that still flinch when I walk into a room full of her kind of people." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "You already have. Look at your daughter. Look at us." He turned slightly, kissed the top of her head. "You think she'll ever forgive me?" "Who, Hannah?" No. You... Chloe stayed quiet for a long beat. Then she tilted her face up to his. I already have. I just needed time to believe it. His throat tightened, and he nodded, pulling her close. The next morning, he sent a short text to his mother. If you ever want to meet your granddaughter, I won't stop you. But she won't be used as a pawn. This is an invitation, not a transaction. Vivian didn't reply, and Jason didn't expect her to. But something shifted in him the moment he hit send. Like he had finally exhaled a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. The following weekend was Hannah's 6th birthday. Chloe had planned a small backyard party with fairy lights, tiny cupcakes, and a unicorn cake she baked herself. Miles showed up first, holding a gift and looking more like family than employee. This better not be a check again, Chloe warned. It's not. It's a puzzle. Kids got brains. Let's feed 'em. Talia brought balloons, and someone from the bakery volunteered to bring music. The backyard filled with laughter, tiny feet stomping grass, and enough joy to blanket the whole neighborhood. Midway through the party, Chloe stood near the grill, flipping sliders, when she noticed Jason step away from the group. He was staring at the sidewalk beyond the fence. Vivian stood there, wearing all black, holding a small white box in her hand. Chloe didn't move, didn't wave, didn't panic. Jason walked to the edge of the yard, not with anger, not with apology, just stillness. They spoke quietly, for a long time. Then he walked back, alone. What did she say? Chloe asked. He took her hand. She said she doesn't know how to be the kind of woman who belongs here, but she wanted to try. Chloe nodded. We don't need her. No, he agreed. But Hannah deserves the truth. And maybe, just maybe, healing doesn't have to look like a family dinner. Maybe it starts with not running anymore. Chloe leaned in and kissed his cheek. Later that night, after everyone had left, they stood in the backyard under the last of the fairy lights. Hannah had fallen asleep with her crown still on, frosting on her cheek. Jason wrapped his arms around Chloe's waist. Thank you, he whispered. For what? For not giving up on yourself. For giving me the chance to show up. Chloe looked up at him. You showed up when it counted. He kissed her then. Not like before. Not rushed or hungry or full of guilt. This kiss was quiet, steady, real. And under those twinkling lights, with their daughter asleep inside and the past laid to rest, Chloe whispered the only words that still held weight. I'm glad you didn't walk away twice. And Jason replied, I never will. 3 months later, fall settled over the city. Trees along the sidewalk wore copper and gold. The mornings smelled of cinnamon and quiet. Inside the bakery, Chloe set out a tray of pumpkin scones while Hannah sat at the corner table, scribbling a note for her dad on pink paper. Jason was running late from a consulting call. His schedule had become lighter, more flexible, shaped around the things that mattered. Library drop-offs, school recitals, Saturday morning pancake rituals. Chloe no longer checked the time and worried if he'd come. He always came. Talia stopped by around noon with an armful of grocery bags. I brought almond flour and the oat milk you like. You're a saint, Chloe said, hugging her. You staying for lunch? I'd be offended if you didn't ask. They sat at the counter as Hannah skipped between them. Chloe passed her a sugar cookie with pink frosting shaped like a heart. Hannah bit into it, eyes wide. Mama, is it Valentine's? Every day's Valentine's, if you love right, Chloe said without missing a beat. Talia smiled. You're soft now. Chloe raised a brow. Excuse me? Soft, in a good way. Like someone who's not waiting to be hurt anymore. Chloe took that in slowly. Maybe I was always soft. I just didn't have space for it before. Jason walked in then, hair slightly tousled from the wind, scarf tucked into his coat, and face lit up the moment he saw them. He kissed Chloe on the cheek, then lifted Hannah into his arms. She giggled, her legs kicking playfully. Hey, Bunny, look what I made. She waved the crayon note in his face. Jason unfolded it carefully. It was a drawing, him, Chloe, Hannah, and a giant cupcake in the middle. We're a team, Hannah said proudly. And you're the biggest piece. Jason looked at Chloe, and his throat tightened. She reached out, took his hand, and squeezed. Later that night, they put Hannah to bed after reading her favorite picture, book twice, once with Jason's voices and once with Chloe's. She fell asleep with her arm wrapped around her stuffed bunny and the note under her pillow. Jason and Chloe stepped out onto the porch. The air was crisp. The stars showed up early now. Jason sat on the swing. Chloe curled beside him. They didn't speak for a while. They didn't need to. "I've been thinking," Jason said quietly. "Dangerous," Chloe teased. He smiled. "I want to build something else, not just a career, something for people like us, a fund, a grant, for women starting over, for daughters raised by one strong hand and a heart full of hope." Chloe's lips parted slightly. "Like a scholarship? More than that. A legacy. In her name." She turned her face into his shoulder. "I love you. I know." She looked up. "I hated you. Remember?" Jason chuckled. "You remind me every other week. I was afraid love would make me small again. It made me bigger. You made me better." Their hands interlocked as the wind carried dry leaves across the porch. The next morning, Chloe walked into the bakery with Hannah in one arm and a sticky note in the other. She pinned it behind the counter. Jason walked in a few minutes later and read the note out loud. "In this space, we believe second chances can taste like warm bread and feel like forgiveness. Love lives here, and she looks like our daughter." He looked at Chloe. "You wrote this?" She nodded. "Felt like the right time." Jason kissed her forehead. "Then it is." Over time, customers noticed. They asked about the note, and Chloe never gave the full story. But sometimes, when a tired woman came in with worry in her eyes, or a man hesitated too long before ordering, she'd point to it and smile. "You're welcome here." One Friday afternoon, Miles brought a young intern to the bakery. "This place," he told the girl, "is proof that some of the best things come from the people no one believed in." Jason smiled from the corner booth. Chloe stood behind the counter, wiping her hands, and Hannah ran past with her lunchbox, headed to the back to show her mum her new drawing. In that small moment, the smell of cinnamon, the sounds of soft chatter, the feel of something real, Chloe knew peace wasn't a place. It was a choice, made daily, sometimes shaky, often quiet, but always worth it. Jason reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I almost forgot," he said. Chloe took it, unfolded it, and gasped. It was the first note she'd written to him years ago, back when she'd baked those custom muffins for his company event. "Hope this makes your morning sweeter, Chloe. You kept this." "I kept everything that felt like love." She stared at the paper, then back at him. "So what now?" He stepped behind the counter, wrapped his arms around her waist, and whispered, "Now, we keep living the story we almost didn't get." Chloe kissed him. Slow, sure. And behind them, Hannah's voice echoed from the kitchen. "Are you kissing again?" They laughed. Yes, they were. And they would. For a lifetime. Hey there. Thank you so much for joining us on this unforgettable journey. If Chloe's strength, Hannah's innocence, and Jason's redemption touched your heart, we'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment. What part of their story stayed with you most? Hit like if you believe love isn't about perfection, it's about showing up. Share this story with someone who needs a reminder that it's never too late to be better. And subscribe for more deeply emotional, lesson-filled stories, right here on Mr. Charles Stories. See you in the next one. Until then, keep choosing love.